Right. I should remind me next time if I didn't do this. Okay. So from work breakdown, you have already done that. And then resources analysis, I think you have got a concept of how to do them. So you do that for the selected project for your group. Some people, the individual assignment and group assignment are the same project. Some of you, I think majority of you are actually different. So, or from the individual one, you pick one and you do a bit more to it. So that one is the resources analysis. You need to do that, and then you break it down to 3 components. And then after that, what you need to do is for each component, because material, manpower and machineries are actually time-based. So you need your schedule to help you to do the manpower and machineries. So from there, you will calculate your cost, meaning that for material is the quantity of material times by the rate. So the rate is whatever rate that you are referring to, whether it's a JKR rate, whether it's a schedule of rates from any of your older projects. That's fine, that's really fine. But just bear in mind that there's a lot of material increase on prices recently due to the Russian-Ukraine war, as well as I know at the moment the steel has gone up to about 4,000 ringgit per ton, which is really quite a lot. And petrol prices has also gone up a lot, which will affect the machinery prices. So whenever you consider these things, you have to be very careful. And especially after MCO, a lot of things has gone up in prices due to many, many reasons. Especially, I think it's the supply. The supply is a bit low because most factories and most of the economy are not fully back into functioning. So therefore, you have a bit of shortage of materials and all that. And of course, logistic transportations and import export. There's all effects, because the border is not fully open and all that. And so those are the reasons why there was a huge material cost increase. So the rate, you have to be really careful. Don't take rate from 2000 or 1994 or something like that, and use it for your project now. You know what I mean? That would be a bit ridiculous lah. So be very careful. You need to tell us where your rates comes from, and then after that you will put in. The main thing is we need to show in your report what is your estimating processes like what sort of format you use to do the estimating, and then you will create a table, a big a nice big calculation table, and to put in all your numbers and all that, and then from the final budget there that you are proposing, or the final estimates that you're proposing, you combine that with the schedule. We need you to draw your S-curve just to show us how to draw your S-curves. I think Dr. Lee went through with you how do you draw S-curve? The financial and physical S-curve?
Yes, already.
Excellent. So I think that part here today we will re-emphasize to you again, just to show us there's nothing to talk about project control here, project cost control, but it's more on a cost plan. So this is part of the first part of the project that you're going to be doing with the group, okay? This is not difficult for me, okay? And I'm sure a lot of you working, you do have a lot of projects, that you've selected, that is, you've got the budgeting there as well, so but it's just a matter of how you present it, the nitty-gritty, the small details and all that will actually gain you more marks, gain you the marks that you want to gain, you see. So we want you to get as much high mark as possible before you actually sit for your exams, you see. We do not want to have like a borderline kind of assignments and then end up you are struggling with the exams later and then barely get a pass sort of things, you see. And the second component of the assignment of the project is going to be on risk, you see. This bit here, I'm not going to let you worry about it first, because what is going to happen is I'm going to cover cost management with you today. All these things I will be covering with you over again. And most of you do know how to do it anyway, like some of you, my undergraduate students, have gone through it before. Some of you are working adults who are really, really very all the time doing this for contractors or for, or at least you see it, some way. So yeah, the documents and all that. But of course, don't selling to that lah, huh? I mean, this is a proper education, proper format kind of thing that you need to compile and do, not just, copy and paste some BQs that you have in the office and pass this as this part of the report. That would be a very disastrous things to do lah, huh? Then next week, Dr. Lee will come back and give you quality. So quality class, she will be talking to you on quality class. So basically from this week to next week, you have 1 week, and after you cover quality, and I'll be back to covering risk management with you. So this bit here, you have about 2 weeks in a way to map out your thoughts and your ideas, and at least put into some form of a first draft kind of feel in about 2 weeks time. And then when I come back to you on risk identification, risk management, I don't know if I will do this as a pre-recorded or a full class with you, but no matter what, we will have a class where you take your attendance and we discuss on your assignment, on the project, this bit of the project, and then either we will, if depending on the time, let's say there's a lot of queries, a lot of discussion, and then it takes about 2 hours to settle the project discussion, then I will do this as pre-recorded lah, in that sense lah, huh? And then after that, once you got this, you can proceed to do your risk management. And then from risk, I will be with you for 3 weeks, meaning that from risk management, I'll do procurement 1, procurement 2. So there's 3 weeks that I'll be with you. So then we have plenty of time to make more and more discussion on this and more discussion on this before you hand in the final week semester. Okay. So that's the plan that I have. So before today is week 7, LU 7 for us. Yeah. So, and then next week is LU 8, LU 9. So with LU 9, with LU 9, you will definitely, I hope to see some drafts already for this bit, and then we'll give you a lecture on this bit, and then you can proceed to do it and finish up in the next LU 9 to LU 12. There's another 3 weeks of so that is about right lah, the amount of time that you need for this project, because it's a group project, meaning that not one person do everything, but 2 or 3 of you will be working on this, like together kind of thing. Somebody may do the material bit, somebody may do the manpower bit, somebody may do the machinery bit, and then you put together, and then then you all work together to finish up the report bit, drawing the S curves and all that. So it will be a group effort lah, yeah. And so this bit also is not that difficult. The steps that you do it is actually quite what we call systematic, is it? So with all this, the work breakdown is already done. You just take it and do your risk identification, which is related time and cost only, and then your risk analysis. Propose a risk matrix, and then draw your risk profile. So this is very, very systematic kind of assignment, almost like a mathematic assignment kind of thing that you need to finish the questions or feel, So together you hand in this report on the 30th of April. So this is the project brief. I believe I've already posted in ELIP, and it should be open by today. I think the deadline I did set a restrictions. I think it should be open already by now, and then you can start submitting it before or during 30th of April. And like I say, 30th of April, 1st of May is our last week of the class. And basically, if you ask for extension, there isn't much room that we can do for you. Maybe another 2 or 3 days is possible. But if you say to give it to you for another week to do this, I think it's quite impossible, because the following week you will have your oral presentation for your RPs, and then on the 8th, 9th, we will set 1 day for the, I haven't discussed the exam time with you yet. There will be 3 subjects that you need to sit for exams. RM, some people are doing RM, but you don't have to sit for exam for that. So there's 3 subjects. So I will be asking whether you want to do your exam Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 days continuous, finish it up, or you prefer doing it on after your oral is a Friday, you want to do a bit of revision and do your first exam on the Sunday, followed by Monday and Wednesday, or I think if you want, we can do 3 days straight also can, you know. So yeah, I mean, this is something that I normally would discuss with the whole entire group and get consensus on which day you want to sit for your exams, you see. Because if we do it on the weekdays, meaning that if we do a Monday and Wednesday, you need to take, some of you may need to take leave, you see. So we want to discuss this a little bit earlier. What do you think? What do you prefer?
Having 1 day break for revision.
Revision. So meaning 6th of May, you do your oral, and then we sit for the first paper on Sunday lah, huh? So May
Maybe we
1st.
can have Saturday and Sunday exam, and then 1 day break, and then Tuesday for another paper.
10. That's a good idea. 7, 8, like maybe I will set Saturday as the afternoon exams and Sunday as the afternoon exams, and then we have a Monday break, and then we do a Tuesday morning exam. There will be soil and wastewater. Wastewater will be a take home. This will be a take home. The take home will be about a 4 to 5 hours take home. Likely is about 5 hours. Mine set before 4 hours. Some students complain it's a bit too short. They ask for extra time, so I may just take it as 5 hours. But I heard that Dr. Leonard showed me the paper for your wastewater. I think he's going to set it as 4 hours. So yeah. And then Dr. Noazlina, definitely she's setting it as online face-to-face, which is usually about 3 hours. Yeah. Meaning that you have to on your camera. So I will, and anyone else have any sort of like suggestion or anything that you are particularly like not comfortable with? Or what happened is after Tuesday, I don't want to drag it too long because I need you to hand in your report maybe on the 12th. Yeah, your RP report has to be on the 11th or 12th that you need to hand in. Your RP2 and RP1. Because we need to get all the marking done and have the meeting on the 14th or 15th, you see. So it's going to be quite tight as well. I think the Jana will be around the 18th, if I'm not wrong. So likely is on the 15th, we need to have a meeting. On the 16th morning, we need to have a meeting before we key in the marks. Yeah, I mean, not too late lah, because if it's too late, I will be affecting your, if let's say there's re-examination, it will be set on the 15th, you see. So yeah, so most likely is I need to set a meeting on the 13th. So meaning that your RP report needs to be in by 11th. Yeah, that would be the latest. Okay. Anyone? 7, 8, 10? And then on the 11th midnight, you need to submit your RP report. 6 will be your oral presentation.
Doctor, all exam is online?
Sorry, 7, 8, 10.
All online.
So far at the moment, it's all online. I'm preparing for an online. Mine is going to be take home test. Dr. Leonard will be a take home test, and the 6163 will be an online face to face. Online face to face means that you have to be online and then open your camera, sort of things. Yeah.
Okay.
Just now, 8, 9, time of date.
10, no? Do it on the 10, no? Yeah. Like what Nurama suggests just now? 7, 8, 10. Or you guys prefer 7, 8, 9, one shot?
No, 7, 8, 10.
7, 8, 10, no? Anyone else have any other opinion better than this, or you have other consideration? If 10, that means you only need to take, if you really need to, you need to take 1 day leave, which is in the morning.
What about 5, 7, 8? Is it okay?
5, 7, 8. You want it earlier, is it?
Then we can focus with our RP.
Okay, actually, it's just a matter that third, is it second or third is the second is Raya. Third is Raya, fourth is Raya. So fifth is the third day of Raya.
For me, I don't mind lah.
I think the Chinese probably have no issue lah, and then like what about Shikin and Zulkarnain, and there's a few who are celebrating Irfan, Ashraf. I think they're all celebrating. There's about half of you celebrating here, I think. Aiza, Shikin, yeah. Hey, so quiet, only one person opinion only, the class monitor, is it?
I'm
We
okay with
discuss
anything,
among ourselves.
sir.
Oh yeah, I think it's a good idea. You confirm among yourself, and the main thing is fifth is a bit fast in the way because we finish our classes on the 1st, and then you should really be taking a little break and celebrating it, and then preparing for your RP, and then do your exams, and then wrap up your RP report. Because after your presentation, I'm sure there's some comments from some lecturers that you may need to work on it. So I'll probably set RP as either very early on 12th morning to hand in the last, or midnight kind of thing on the 11th to hand in your RP. Yeah. Because you finish exams on the 10th morning, which is you still have about a day, the whole day, afternoon, night, until next day night, to actually wrap up your RP report. I mean, that's why I have been nagging about RP, So some of you has received messages from me because your RP report are just like nowhere to be seen at the moment. And I don't know what is in your mind because for RP2 people, I think you all know what to expect. If you have not done enough of data collection by now, I mean, if you have not started your data collection by now, I think you are in serious problems. But if you've already started, you're completing your data collections and maybe doing some modeling work or whatever by now, then you should be in a good shape because it's week 7. You still have about 5 weeks to go. So yeah, I mean, like about a month for you to write chapter 3 and 4. Okay, your chapter 4 can be somehow incomplete and not really perfect, is fine, as long as you've already started data collection and you've got something to present and something to write. If it's not completed, let's say you are planning to do 150 surveys, you see. I mean, your lecturer's target is to do 100 surveys. You've only completed about 30, 40 now, and you still need to do another, you still have a bit more to go. But let's say if really worst come to worst, you present the result for 30 to 50 like that, and then mention very clearly that the data collection will still continue. Because it's your supervisor that is marking the report, I think that is still fine, that is really still fine. And then but the thing is you cannot have it empty, you see. And then if you explain it to your oral examiner, which is 10% of your marks, you mentioned that this is the current results that you are getting, and yet you still need to do this is actually fine. Okay, it's actually fine for RP2. Okay, so the RP people, I'm not so worried because I already told you that the strategy. If let's say you are not confident, we ask you to stop for this sem. And those of you who embark onto RP2, most of you are actually quite confident and to do it, then I think it should be all right. It's the RP1 people that I'm actually worried about. There's 4 RP1 people and 1 person repeating your RP1. So these people are like the people who, if you don't know your position right now, then I would say that it's going to be an issue. It's a very big issue because most of you has issue with literature review. That is the hardest barrier to overcome in that sense, you see. So if you've not started on anything yet, I think most likely is you may just have to fail it and then repeat it, in the coming sem, because you cannot drop it anymore. I've already advised you, I was with you for the first 3 weeks. I did advise you many times that if you're not confident or you have problems, you must drop it as soon as possible. But now you cannot drop it already. You see, so if you haven't been seeing a supervisor, you haven't been giving any draft, even up to week 7 by now, for me, it's already completely off my plan already. I'm not going to chase you anymore because it's just basically there's nothing I can do for you except to receive whatever that I need to receive at the end of it and either pass or fail you. That's all, you see. So most supervisors have that kind of mentality. We're not going to chase you. You're not babies, you see. So, you're not young people who is basically like, need to babysit you. You are doing a research project. We've been telling you, see your supervisor, talk to your supervisor. And if you're so busy with everything else, then too bad lah. We are not going to be able to do anything for you, really. There's no such thing as I'll be. Some people may have the wrong assumptions that I'm paying for this. This is the man cost that I'm paying, right? What, 16K, 14K for it? And come on, you've got to pass me, sort of things, you see. So unfortunately, if you want kind of courses, you need to go to private universities to do them. Like we can't do it for you. I wouldn't do it for you, definitely, because we do have MQA behind our back, see. So everything is recorded properly. We have to go through 3 audits, every year. All your reports are all sampled out into the files, and then we've just recently went through the audit. Me and Dr. Lee went through a uni-based audit only, and that audit basically we need to show us all your proof of your work, you see. And then if we talk about MQA later on, which is 10 times more serious than our own uni audit, and then we also have external examiners looking into our courses as well. Recently I was doing I was doing this MSCEM engineering management course. The external examiner actually commented my project management exams was actually not difficult enough, and not complex enough. And me and Dr. Lee ended up to write a 2-page report to prove it to them that, this is already very difficult because most of the questions not only ask, it's not about what this is, it's about taking things and turning it 10 times to give you the answer. And it's already complicated enough. I've got 7 students and 5 of them failed the exams in project management, you see. So then 5 of them have to go and resit, and then only 4 of them passed at the end of the day and 3 of them not passed. You see, so, and yet the examiner was telling us that your questions is not difficult enough. This, so we will, we have to be very careful here. We do have, for public universities, we are being scrutinized very carefully. And then every few years, the EAC comes, the Engineering Accreditation Council. Yes, the Engineering Accreditation Council belongs to the Board of Engineers. They look after the undergraduate studies. It is true to say that they don't look at the master's courses. But we never know, that one day they may just, say that, oh, you have a master course, can I have a look at your syllabus, kind of thing, and then we will have some comments, and there may be some alert on the course that we do not want to see. So our paperwork, the things that we file and do and everything is very, very strict one, It's not like what you think, you see. So I don't want to be too naggy about this because this is really old stories, but you need to know, there's nothing I can do to help you. I have a student, I'll tell you an example. Some of your last year's classmates, one of them did not pass RP. And you know what? He has done every courses. And RP3 is his last course. And he can dare to give a 13-person survey, no, 7-person survey and decided to get this is his RP. He doesn't want to see his supervisor. He doesn't want to do anything. We advise him so many times. And then Mr. Wrong, out of all the lecturers, Mr. Wrong, who is the most patient person, among us, actually have to fail him. And then when he fell, Keep on to realize that how shit, how shit he is going to be. See, because he has already passed everything. That means that without RP, he cannot get his master degrees. Full stop, you see. I told him and I said, I can't do anything for you. So it was like really a really crazy process, And then, yes, we did try to help him. I mean, we're not that cruel. So within our means, me, Ron, Leonard, examiners, Dr. Zamri, the dean, the 5 of us have to help him. We end up giving him extra deadline. We end up having to talk to CGS, and because he was lucky, because he is belonging to the old SAM. So, I mean, the old system, meaning that he has a bit more time before the next semester starts. And we have to go through a huge lot of, like extra time, extra data collection, extra report. Mr. Ron has to go through his report. Whatever that he could have done at that few months when he's doing RP, he did not do until that time. And it's not his ability, he cannot do. He didn't do it, you see. So now he is in the appeal stage now. And yes, the faculty did help him. We did try our best to help him. It was over Chinese New Year, and then it was over February that he was correcting his report and doing so many things on his report. And now his report is in the faculty. We've already sent it to appeal. And next week, CGS will decide whether they can then let him go. And I tell him that I cannot guarantee you. The faculty has already done their best for you. 5 lecturers are helping you to get through this. And yet, you're not, you yourself are the one that, create all these problems. And not if CGS doesn't get you, if CGS doesn't say, because CGS appeal is only for subject that has to sit for final exam. And this is a very special appeal, you see. So we did write I had to write a task, like a 4-page report to say that why he had to, why we have to help him, and all that. And then he has to write a letter of him, put in all the medical-based report saying that, there was problems, sick, and all that kind of stuff, and then come in and we did a report, and now it's with CGS. And there is still a 50% chance that CGS will fail him. And if CGS said that, sorry, this is not it, we cannot accept that because it is not exam-based kind of subject, then too bad lah. This guy is not going to get his RP. I mean, he's not going to get his degree completely. So this is serious things, I mean, like some of you are like, I don't know what you are thinking, I really don't know what you are thinking, You come here, you want to do this, you want to get a master's, and yet when we look for you to get your RP report, you tell me that you're so busy, you see? So what can I say, So I mean, like, this is experience I'm sharing with you. I do not want to see any one of you, especially the new 4 guys, and even the older ones, because you've already passed through everything, I do not want you to flop on RP alone, you see. So we did try our best to help, but you need to help yourself, especially people who are like not doing RP now, RP2 now. You should at least cover up to your methodology by now, or start to write on your methodology by now. It is not a holiday. It is a break for you to catch up and catch your breath, and do a better job for you to do your RP2 next semester. But you are going to do your RP now. You have to go and see your supervisor. Don't run away from your supervisor. Most supervisors are very, very willing to see you, but we are we are not a pushy type of people. None of us are pushy. None of us is going to call you up and say that, how are you, where's your report and all that, you see. So we can't do that. So what we do is we give you warning, we tell you the deadlines. If you don't fulfill deadline, you will not hear from us. Don't say that you are inconvenient. I'm not inconvenient because it's your report. If you fail, you fail. For me, students who don't hand in is the best students because I would give 0, but that is the easiest way to do it. Okay, so I think there's a few of you who are not taking RP, like RP2. Okay, so because you're not taking RP2 does not mean that it's a full blast holiday for you. Because if you take it as a full blast holiday, most likely is you will still have the same problem that you have in your RP1. So get yourself going, finish up your research methodology by now, or at least start to write on the research methodology and clean up everything that you have not cleaned up in your RP1. and then start to write on your research methodology and even start that data collection if you can. By even in the next few weeks, just start it, so that when RP2 comes, you're more relaxed, you see. Right, so yes, at the moment, this is what I see, that I can see there's a few issues coming up already with some people. So, but I hope that, the warning has been given to you enough for you to realize that this is very, very serious, and then RP can be a serious issue, but it's not like RP is a serious issue because you yourself are not helping yourself. RP is not the issue at all if you are working closely with the supervisor. And if you have problems with your supervisor, you can always talk to me, I mean, I'm more than welcome to actually help you if you have any issues with your supervisor. The least that I see, all these people supervising are actually very, very nice people, and they're very, very responsible people. I don't have any one of them that are like, that is considered as a problematic lecturers. If they are problematic, I wouldn't have get you to go to them in the first place also, you see. Yeah. So yes, please, I really beg you, don't give me extra work by having to, trying to pass you at the end of the day, and yet it's quite mission impossible. Okay, so yeah, this is something that we really have to. I don't know. I'm just very upset, whenever I talk about this, because people just don't listen. You see. All right, so this is the assignment. This is the project. I think it's already in eLeak. Just go and take a look in eLeak, and then the deadline is on the 30th, and then you guys discuss about your exams and take note on your RP situation at the moment. And if you still haven't buck up, then I really don't know what to say, and just wait for your result. Yeah. And remember, the other point is you have to have a CGPA of more than 3 every sem to be passing to be able to graduate. That's another requirement, okay? And yeah, so going back to the cost management, any issues here? Anything you want me to cover or that you are worried about or anything like that? Discuss among yourself 7, 8, 10. If let's say this is the date that is confirmed, by next week, you guys just give me a tinkle. Me and Dr. Leonard will work out on your RP presentation schedules and all that already. And we'll likely be posting it out before week 8, just to get you all prepared. And my exam timetable will most likely be out also at the time, so that some of you are away, and then you may need to go and get leave and all that. So we give you ample of time, like at least a month in advance to prepare for your leave and all that. Okay, so yeah. Any questions so far? So please discuss among yourself.
So 7, 8, 10 is the proposed exam timer. 7th of May, 8th of May, and 10th of May.
Yeah, 7, 8, 10. So I think because some of you are very quiet, like you just basically like you don't dare to say or whatever. Only Norama was talking and you are asking questions, and rest are very, very quiet. So but yourself, you get a consensus on this date. You're okay, everybody is okay with 7, 8. We will have it on the 7th afternoon and the 8th afternoon, and then on the 10th morning now. So as early as possible, we finish up your tests. Your exams, and most likely it will put 6-1, 6-3 on a Tuesday morning, because I know Lena has a tendency of doing online face-to-face. Then she'll only do it for 3 hours kind of thing. Take-home exam is longer. Take-home exam is 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes. So I need to check with Dr. Leonard how long is he giving. His act is 4 and mine is likely 5. So I think it's better to do it over the weekend, so when you don't have work, you see. Take-home exam is different. You don't have to on your camera in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, you just upload the questions, and then you just do your questions by yourself, and then do up the, whole thing, and then go back to eLeak and post it back to the online system, you see. So you are allowed to open book, you're allowed to read your notes, you're allowed to check things online, you're allowed to do that. That's why the question is very twisted in a way. So it's not so easy as copy something and paste something. I do have many people failing project management, so I'm not surprised. You see. So assumption is, open book take-home exam is really the easiest ever thing. But the question is worded in such a way that, it is not that easy, you see. So yeah, there's no straightforward answer. So yeah, likely we would. I mean, definitely there will be take-home exam from the project management group 6083. 6043. I have already seen the questions. It is a take-home exam, but I haven't confirmed with Dr. Leonard how long he's giving it. And I see the question is also like quite panjang kind of thing, you know, you need one part to do the other part, those sort of things, you know, so it's not that simple as well. So yeah, so I think these two I'll likely do it over the weekend. Okay. So for people who do on 10th, like 6163, you're doing on the 10th, most likely it's going to be in the morning, like starting from 8:30 and you finish it around 11:30, and then you still can go to work in the afternoon, sort of things. So you don't have to take a full day leave if you don't want to. But if you want to take leave for that few days, it's also a good idea. Take from 10, 9, 10, 11, you know, so that you can have time to do your RP as well. It may be a good idea. Okay, so yeah, I mean, like, anything else? So please discuss among yourself, you know, and don't forget to include Arthur, you know, Zulkarnain and Marsha and also Johnson in your discussion about the exam time. Macquarie, Roland, no, you know, you remember lah, huh? Yeah. These are the outstation people. Don't forget about them as well, huh?
Yeah,
Okay,
for me,
doctor.
7, 8, 10 is okay lah.
Huh?
For me, 7, 8, 10 is okay.
7, 8, 10 is okay, huh? Johnson thinks it's okay, okay? So yeah, and I think most of you will be okay with it. I would say, huh? So give me a firm answer. Rama, you take the majority, lah, huh?
Okay,
Rama,
sure.
can I designate you to be the monitor for this, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, so you just confirm with me maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, lah, before the next class, lah, huh?
Okay, sure, doctor.
Thank you. All right. Here you go. Cost management. Yes, we do. I did went on a bit long nagging on my nagging sessions for a while. Yeah. This one here, I am actually going through. There's nothing much that I really want to go through with you, honestly, because cost management is like the oldest story on earth kind of thing, you know. And most of you are like just revision basically, you see. So well, I will still go through it, you know, I'll still go through it because it is one of the most highly visible aspects of the contract. See? So what do you mean by highly visible? Meaning that, you know, whenever you go for a site coordination meeting, whenever you go for a client consultant meeting, you know, I mean, all this money issue will always be a top of the day, you know, kind of thing. Time is one thing. Oh, look at the schedule, how's the program now, you know, and then the next thing is, oh, how's the budget going? How's the payment going? How's the claim going? You know, so you know, these are the quite of, you know, one of the very most up there, you know, everybody can see it. You know, if your project go over budget, you'll be in the newspaper, you know, like sick project kind of thing. And then there's a lot of contractors now, I think, having a lot of issues with all these things about claims and about extension of time, which at the end of the day affect cost management, you see. And I think there are many contractors. I mean, in Sarawak, I'm not sure in Sabah, they are all hanging on a rope at the moment because they are having a lot of issues because of the old MCO, because of this COVID. And most government jobs are not really, you know, government are taking up this stand of, they pretend like MCO never happened. You see, they give extension 84 days plus what 45 days or something, those official MCO date kind of thing. So then anything else they do not consider, and they are just in a way becoming an ostrich like in that sense, not willing to discuss, not willing to compromise, and then just taking a stand of, okay, this is the one that I give, and I don't care. You don't come and talk to me. I don't want to listen. You just finish your job and give me the project, and that's it. All I care. So this is the kind of, you know, mentality most government agencies are taking up, and they are actually committing suicide, I can tell you, because most consultants are, I mean, most contractors are dying out there. Most consultants are also dying because they're not really, you know, getting a lot of their payment on time and all that. You see, their fees and all that. That is a separate issue. This is a separate topic. But most contractors are having a lot of issues because there's a lot of increase in prices of things, and then, because the job are not supposed to be completed 2 years ago, but it's dragged up to today, and then extension of time, LAD is one issue, plus another component that the cost has gone up dramatically. It's not to say badly, I mean, it's dramatically, it's catastrophic. If we talk about that, it's really a very scary issue, you see, and especially with the Ukraine and also the Russian issues now, a lot of energy prices are going up as well, and then transportation costs are going up as well. So, I mean, petrol costs are going up completely, I mean, like, of all the things now, you get a COVID plus another, maybe a third world war coming up or something like that. It's like a crazy time for everybody. And but unfortunately, it looks like the government is not really like taking much stand on it, except that, I don't want to know, I don't want to hear, I just want you to commit and do that. And I think most contractors' official statement would be now, it's like, fine, you go ahead and terminate me, I don't care, and then sue me if you want, and then because they are already at wit's end, you see, they are already at wit's end. They are like completely in the corner, pushed into the corner. They cannot finish the job. So they cannot finish the job because of the price increase. They cannot finish the job because of the time, the punishment, the LAD and all that. They are not able to do it, you see. So without much compromise going on, without much negotiation going on, we can see a lot of sick project coming up. And with this sick project, most of the issues will be around revolving around this matter of money and cost and time, you see. So it's going to be a very, very big issue in the industry for the next at least 2 years, I would say. And you see a lot of our contractors being out of job, not out of job, they just cannot do it, they'll just go bankrupt and forget all about it. See? And even if they go meeting now, I've been hearing that some contractors don't even go meeting now, it's like you go, they send somebody just, like, oh, okay. They send an okay guy there and then sit there and okay, and come back and didn't do anything kind of thing, is it? So because they can't do anything, there's the ability has gone haywire, they just can't do it, you see. And yeah, so these are the issues that we are facing, especially related to money. And it is very critical at the moment, and it is a very critical aspect, and management of costs will start as, it's not cost control. For me, cost management is not cost control. For me, time management is not schedule control. It is already too late if you need to control the schedule. If you need to stick in the meeting and discuss about this problem, this is already the last resort. It's like the last thing that you do already. It's like having, it's like you didn't do anything for the past 10 months, and suddenly today you need to sit for exams, and you are like sitting there trying to, squash everything into your mind and then come and sit for exams kind of thing. It's just that you don't do your RP for the past 10 weeks, and then week 11 you decided, oh, I need to work hard for RP, and then, do your RP kind of thing. It doesn't work that way, because a lot of things need time to plan. It needs things to be executed in the normal course of event so that can produce significantly, reasonably good result. You see, so financial management is the same. It needs to be, plus financial management, it needs to be as early on as the project. When the project started, you need to think about money already. If you don't think about money, you can see that from my notes here. Project cost control is only the last 5-page sort of thing. It's just like, for me, cost control is really not the solution. Cost control only need discipline. You need to have discipline. You need to monitor very closely. You need to catch anything that is sick earlier on, and then do some controlling and monitoring. Just like me, I'm monitoring a lot of you now with your RP. So that's my mentality. I'm trying to catch, people who are in a bit of a trouble and try to get it sorted out as soon as possible. Same thing with monitoring work for time and cost. It's just about catching some of the problems a bit earlier, and watching out and monitoring this 1 or 2 people or this group of people very carefully. But in the first place, if things are not being planned out properly and you're not following it through properly, it's the same. There's not much of things that we can do towards the end, you see. So no matter how much you control during the monitoring stage or controlling stage, if the earlier stages, the pre-commitment stages are not being done properly, we will always have an issue at the end of the day. So when we talk about cost management, basically these are the aspects like cost planning, definition, analysis, and cost monitoring control. You see, out of the 4 things that we do, cost monitoring control is only 25%, you see. And then the time before the commitment is something that we have to be it is significant, and most people will miss that, because the time before the commitment means that before you sign the contract, those amount of effort that you deal with, that you put in terms of cost is actually equally, if not more important than after the commitment. I mean, after the commitment means that you sign a contract, you're embarking onto the job, into the monitoring and controlling stages are actually equally important, if not time before is a lot more important than even time after. So the first part will deal with defining, planning, how you're going to control and putting all the alarm bells and making sure that things are in place and making sure that everybody is going to do their job accordingly. So these are the earlier stages. Then the second part is about monitoring. Then monitoring is always about the expenditure. You see, so when the bills comes in, when the when the expenditure comes in, like the bills, like the invoices comes in, and all that, you start to see whether the things are going a bit haywire, or whether things are doing well, and that is the monitoring part. So these are the overview basically, and then the most scary word that we always do not like to hear is to overrun. When we have a cost overrun, this is the part that everybody's shaking their boots, you see. So I think a lot of clients, a lot of agencies now are facing this issue called cost overrun already. Yeah. The cost overrun is something that no project manager likes to hear, and most project manager would be put into that position of establishing the cost and monitoring the cost. So these are the background of cost management. So cost management is always about defining the budget, and then after that, defining the budgets first, then put down the method of execution, and then put in certain what we call alarm bell. I always call it alarm bell, but then you can call it like a warning or some form of warning signs to make sure that that if it's over this amount, then something is not right, and sort of things, you see. So it's like an alert that you must have, and then you will move into things like procurement. And in procurement, you need to make sure that you've got the right contractors, you've got who is offering the right price with the right value, and then after that you move on, and then you award a job. And then once you award a job, you need to look after the expenditure of the project very carefully. How much payment is being made? Are you over making payment? Are you under making payment? Are you buying materials too expensive? Are you are you sort of overspending the money because you have wrongly estimated in the first place? Sometimes it's because you let's say project earlier on, you estimate the manpower is like this, and then when it comes to actual project starting, the subcontractor actually quote you like 5 times more expensive. There are situations like that, especially with items like more specialist items. Sometimes you expect things to be like this, but actually when the actual quotation comes in, it can be a lot higher, and then that will actually cause some problems with the cost bit. So these are some of the issues that we need to deal with. So during the expenditure bit, it's about looking after the expenditure, looking after the management of people, machineries, and all that, to make sure that cost doesn't go haywire, especially with the expenditure. And then you will move on and then close up the project, and then doing the final accounts and make sure that the final account amount is going to be hopefully less than whatever you have already planned for in the first place. So that will be the whole processes. I mean, like very simple layman terms of cost control. This is what we will have to go through, what project manager has to go through progressively as you go along into a project. See, so it is the skills that you have to master in that way. Then yeah, we call it strategic cost analysis. I will explain this later on. Again, the word is pre-commitment and post-commitment. So yeah, this is about doing the budget, and this is about committing to the budget, and then make sure that you're controlling according to the budget. So these are pre and post-commitment. So both will require good strategies to actually carry out the cost management. So I will focus mainly more on the cost planning and cost strategy and cost coming up with the cost budget and all that. I think that would be the that would be the pre-commitment stage, which we'll be focusing on. Right. So yeah, and don't forget that cost. This is like a third part here. Is like trying to the second part of the notes here, like part 2, is mainly to tell us that you need for cost management, the strategy of costing, of running cost management need to be in place. You need to be aware of it. You need to make sure that there is a proper system that you set up in your project. The first bit is about pre-commitment, trying to find out what is the best numbers for your project, best cost number, best estimates for your project, and then you need to combine that with some form of procurement strategies, and then you need to combine that with some form of contract management and site management and construction management techniques that needs to be combining, and some form of financial management as well, especially in terms of cash flow and also in terms of accounting. And this will actually be the whole set of process that we need to be planning and actually strategizing in order for the whole process to be smooth, at least smooth. Hopefully it's smooth. I mean, we can't guarantee that every bit will be smooth, but at least we know that if there is this problem, we need to look back into this part. Like if this problem comes, if here procurement comes, and then you cannot buy a more expensive material. I mean, you cannot buy a cheaper material. The material was actually a lot more expensive than you expected. Then at least okay, now this is the issue. We need to go back to procurement and look at procurement. And we'll need to go back to the estimation and see what we have gone wrong in the estimation, or whether the estimation has already had that numbers there, but then it's just that we did not actually realize that we have already put a good number there, so you can actually improve on your management strategies as you move on, you see. So yeah, I mean, like, it's going back and coming forward, again and again into these few components to make sure that the overall result of our management is actually good, you see. The worst is very ad hoc kind of management. It's just like you go into the tender, like you start the project, you don't really do a good estimation, and you don't think about risk at all. You just do an estimation, throw it to the client send it out for a tendering process, and then when the tendering process comes, there may be issue with the contract or with the terms, with the drawings, with the specifications, or with the testing requirement and with the material requirement. You don't really check it through properly, and then when the tender finished, the project is being awarded, and then the contractor had issue trying to finish up the project. So this is very ad hoc. So when do we detect the problem? We always only detect the problem when we start to have budget overrun, when we start to see that we're spending a lot more money than necessary. And this is the time that we get alert. And it's already very late into the project. And then people start to bite onto that part of the project and say that, like this is not right, you've already committed to this, you have to finish this, and all that. So then nobody looks back into the other part that it may be coming from the other part, like procurement or the contract or the terms or the design or the specifications, or some sort of earlier stages that the problem needs to be resolved before the end problem can actually be resolved, you see. So a lot of us are concentrating cost management on that control and monitoring bit, so much so that we adopt that kind of like I said, an ostrich kind of syndrome. I don't want to hear this, I don't want to know this, you just give me my project, I don't care kind of thing. And That is not right, you see. So a lot of times this mistake will repeat itself again and again over different projects, and you will realize that you will never make money as a contractor. One project you fail, you still continue on the same style. It go on, and yet you don't learn from it, you see. So as a project manager, from the client or the SO, if you don't learn from the old problem as a consultant, you don't learn from your old problem, then you will never be able to continue on and improve on your next project. See, so we do not want our problems and issues to be repeating itself again and again throughout different projects. See, sooner or later, somebody will go bankrupt because of that. So we need to form a good strategy. And you say that, forming strategy, wow, that sounds so much like a management kind of word, Actually, there are all very practical things that we can do, you see, in order for you to come up with a proper cost estimation. And then after that, with the right mentality, you embark on a good procurement system, and then you have a good system to buy the materials and source for your resources. That is another part. And then after that, you have a good monitoring systems. You need to set that up, set that gate up one by one, and be fine. You just have to follow through it. And then there are issues that is unexpected, you solve it along the way. But when that unexpected issues, crop up, at least you have a system to handle it, you see. So it will create a lot more less urgency, a lot more less stress among the team members doing it. So that is considered a cost management strategy, a strategic cost management way of approaching cost management. You need to think about it earlier on in the project and not when the problem already happened. Like now, like when I began the class, I talk about contractors having a lot of issues with payment, with AOT and LAD, and then are able to fulfill the terms of the contract because of cost. These sort of things, when it starts to come up, it's already too late. It's really like what we call an ad hoc management, an emergency management. We're trying to solve problems. It's just like there's a big bleeding now. There's a big bleeding. We saw the bleeding, the blood gushing up already. So what we need to do now is just to stop the blood first, you see. So, but then we still cannot, we can't even go and find out. There's no way that we can even know where does the blood come from, that kind of thing, you see. So with a good system, when you see the blood, you hopefully can catch the blood before it bursts, you see. So then we can go and look into those areas that need to have immediate improvement before that blood vessels actually pop and somebody will die from it, kind of thing, you see. So we do not want to do emergency management in project management. It is just so wrong, okay? Then there's a few things here that I need you to, three items that I really need you to really realize, when it comes to money management, okay? And that is dealing with mainly with something that we always forget. You need to know project funding. Okay, and that is a very important issue. You need to know where your project money will come from, and where, as a contractor, for example, as a developer, as a contractor, as a client, as a government agency, you need to know where the money will come from and whether that will be sufficient. And you need to know how to disperse the money and how to actually pay people accordingly to what time, the timing, correct timing, so that your project cash flow is in a very healthy manner. The health feel of the project is actually clean. So we do not want to embark onto a project where you actually just want to get a project and do not think about whether you're going to have the right funding to do it. And the funding can come from many areas. Some people may have to have partners that they may need to embark onto the project by having a joint venture partners. They may need to borrow money from the bank. They may need to get their own company's internal shareholder to pump in money, and they may need to, like public listed company, they may need to, sell more shares and get fundings. And some people may need to sell assets, or some people may need to loan their assets and put it into the bank to do collateral and bring in more money to do the project. So project funding is something that we do not want to forget about it. You need to know, as a project manager, is the funding, is the sponsor secure? You see, if your sponsors are like Karang Kabut one, like I don't know where my money is going to come from, I don't know what tomorrow will be, I was recently in a team to assess some project development, and one of my questions, one of my very big concerns is when I see that the particular company's health field, as in their development or their construction company, their financial status. You see, when you go through the financial status, their liability is a lot more than their assets. You need to really they could get the money to do the project. You see, so even if they have the nicest proposal ever, and you can see that, they're negative. The company is negative. How they can fund the project? So when we will ask them, how are you going to sponsor the project? How are you going to make? I mean, how are you going to? Where is the money going to come from? And some of them will say that we have some investors, and then we want to see the proof of investor. And you can see some people, their company financial position is very weak, but then they put in the name of their joint venture people. So they have other company coming into joint venture, and we need to assess them as an overall, as an overall health view. It's just not your company, but they're bringing in extra people, you see, and how committed and what sort of relationship they have in order to do the project. So as a client, we need to be very careful. Government agency, if you're looking for government agency, you need to know where the money comes from. The federal can give you money, the states can give you money, but if the money is not going to be coming in, accordingly at the right time, there's no proper commitment, we have to be very careful in committing to the project. See, so construction itself is very much of a long-term kind of capital investment. It's a lot of money involved. One, no money, no talk. It's basically no money, no honey. The cash is really king. Today you have no money, tomorrow the concrete truck won't come already. Today you don't pay your workers, tomorrow they disappear already. They don't only disappear, they go to your office and start to pour motor loft at your window already. So these are something that, when we talk about money, earlier stages of money, we need to be thinking about that as well. So as a person who are running a company, as a person who are actually running the project, we need to know, is our project sponsors, is our funding secure, and where is it going to come from? So sources, okay, equity, borrowings, retaining. Actually, all engineers dislike to read profit and balance sheets, and then we are very reluctant to read on balance sheets and all that. Actually, it is important part of our job. Actually, we need to know, we need to have knowledge on that. So I always tell my students, if you ever have to go and take a elective, don't go and take like dancing or music, it's not going to help, Go and take accounting or go and take a law class or something like that. That would be a lot more helpful in terms of engineering. So I think all engineers should have some form of accounting background, some form of at least some idea of when you see a negative number, when you see a red number, you are like, oh, okay, this is actually not healthy, you see. So we need to be equipped with that. Okay? So project financing. So where you're going to get your sponsors, and then how are they going to, how the cash flow will be over the period of the project, see. So then the other option is we may not need to everything construct, everything buy, everything straight away invest into, a long-term 10 years, or 5 years kind of project. There's a lot of other options. Like I said, you may want to, you don't have to build a factory. You can rent a factory first, or you can rent a land space first. You may want to rent an office first. You don't have to build a new office sort of things, you see. So there's a lot of options here. We talk about lease and buy decision. The lease and buy decision, the buy decision for us is really you are confirming to go into that construction, go into building the facilities and making sure that the work will be carried out. See, so there may be other options like leasing and like get some operation licensing and all this. So there's a lot of other options, and do consider that. See, yeah, and this is just very, like for me, these are like just to get you to think in another way, lah. You don't really have to everything, like as a client perspective, from a client's perspective, there is always option called do nothing, you see. So that do nothing may be just asking you to do some maintenance work, or just maybe work with other parties who can actually build for you, like a build on corporate transfer. So it will change your procurement mentality and the procurement route of things as well, you see. So you don't really have to say, okay, my company is going to be committing into every single project, committing and building and constructing every single facilities that we need, or whether we want to, this piece of land, we can hold on to it for a while, we can list it out and make more money, and then later on build it with something else, for example, or we can go and plant bananas and plant nanas first, for the next 5 years, and before we do anything about it. There's always other options, you see. So explore the options of leasing, explore the option of renting, exploring the options of, JVing, and all that. I think that is always a good decision rather than straight away everything, big, construct, is this. So yes, it is important to do construction. Otherwise, engineers like us have no jobs, you see. But from the perspective, especially as a lot of you are actually working maybe for the government agency, for developers and all that, you may want to consider some of these options first before you actually embark onto that decision of doing the project immediately, you see. Right, so then this life cycle costing thing is the second thing that I want to talk about. So funding, sources of funding and all that is one issue. This is like a 3 issues that I want to talk about on top of that, normal cost management. Okay, and then we want to talk about life cycle costing, meaning that you need to think about when you construct something, it doesn't finish there. There are other things like maintenance, operation, especially with government infrastructure project. It's not only about having the money to construct. You need to know that there will be later on road maintenance, culvert maintenance, cleaning of the drain, and doing sewage cleaning, rubbish, water pipe repair, maintenance. There's a lot of money involved later on. So whenever life cycle costing is something that many people will miss because of the work cost, you don't remember that, engineers like us, we like to build and finish the job, and that's it, we think our job are finished. But when you cost for a project, especially in the beginning stage, I think I mentioned this in scope management, when you come up with the scope of work, and that is directly going to be related to the life cycle, you need to think about the life cycle. It is not only about the initial cost of development and the management of construction, but it is the cost of operating and maintenance and finally disposing of these facilities that will cost you maybe even more money to do than the actual initial construction cost, the capital cost. So please be aware of that, and please be thinking about that as well when you are embarking onto project like this, especially infrastructure project, I would say. I'm sure some of you here are actually dealing with like after you're dealing with some form of rural water supply. We do have a lot of issues with this second bit, which is the operation, the maintenance costs and all that, and then end up a lot of these facilities becoming white elephant and useless, and because there is no money for maintenance, and then it's basically as good as being disposed already, and nobody is using it, and it's just sitting there, not doing anything really useful, and you're just wasting your money to build something that is a few million and then end up using it for 3 years, and that's it, you see. So we are actually in a lot of this very bad position when it comes to life cycle costing. And it's something that I think all engineers should be aware of. And the third thing that I want to mention here that is dealing with money also is the value. So value engineering, I've spoken about that as well. So value engineering is about looking into the value of things, like you're not just going to be looking at the cost of building and construction, but whether this cost is well spent, this money is well spent or not. Is it going to give you the performance that you need? Is it going to be good to be used for a long period and good to make a good return, you see? And sometimes you may not need to build big, you can have optimization. So value, life cycle, LCC, value, funding is three things that I emphasize during. You can see that I emphasize doing scope management, and I emphasize it again in cost management, because in scope management, we're coming up with a scope of work. And that scope of work, if you don't figure out these funding issues, if you don't figure out this life cycle costing issue, if you don't figure out these value issues here, basically you are putting yourself in a very, very dangerous position in that sense, that you are creating a scope of work and you do not think about the money or the cost that is involved in these few things, you see, these few areas. So these few areas is, again, I emphasize after scope management, you can see a re-emphasis on this part here. And it's a direct link. Because during that time, if you're coming up with the scope of work, if you don't think about this thing, and then you start to go into this thing, cost management, and you still fail to do it, you will start to see that later on when you're doing cost estimation, and then procurement, and then construction, then slowly the issue will pop up one by one, one by one. So we need to sort it out as soon as possible. Sort out the funding bit, understanding who is the sponsors, and whether the commitment are strong, and the cash flow and the company's health bill, all these things are very, very important. The sources of the funding is very important. And then after that, you need to move into talking about the other part, operation maintenance. How are you going to be? Are you going to be the operators? Are you going to be maintaining the facilities? Or is your house buyer going to maintain the facilities? Is the government agency going to maintain the facilities? We need to know the cost of maintenance, okay? You may say that some projects that you do, mostly is the government, like let's say you hand over to the councils. You see, the councils will do the sewage, the road, the sampah, the drain cleaning and all that. But you see, these costs are actually paid by the taxpayer, meaning that every year we need to pay a house assessment, okay? And we need to pay Cukai Pintu as well. So these are the things that we are actually using. So basically these are the things that we are paying. Every year we're paying, let's say for assemblies in certain areas, we're paying like 1,500. These are the taxes that you need to pay in order to run a household. To run that house that you have, the landed properties, because the councils will be coming in to do all this maintenance for you. So if let's say you build apartments, you as a developer, you build walk-up apartments, condominiums, hostels, or whatever, you will see that the operation and maintenance cost is costing about 30 cents at least per square foot. And you're paying about extra 300-400 a year, to actually do the sinking fund and also the maintenance cost of the building. The person who buy the apartment needs to fork out about $400-500 extra, or $300-400 extra at least a month. If you are paying about 1,400 for loans, and then extra per month you need to pay another 300-400, you're paying about 1,700, and the prices will go up as you go along, because the facilities will get older and you will need more maintenance, you will need more work on the operation and maintenance bit. So the money will not be getting any cheaper, it will be getting more and more expensive. So you see, it will actually affect the final sales of the project in that sense, you see. So whether the buyer will be interested to actually buy the facilities in that sense. So obviously for government agency, like for infrastructure projects such as highway, water pipelines, sewage treatment plant, water treatment plant, hydroelectric plant, these are all, of course, maintained by the government. Like the government built it, they give it to the people, and the people will pay some, money in a way, for water, maybe the water bill, basically, water board collect water bill, you see. So, but that will not be a completely the best ever income, that they're going to get in order to do the future maintenance, you see. So we need to think about operation and maintenance. Very, very important. So if you're working in government agency, when you are embarking onto an infrastructure project, you need to worry about what are the commitment of the money that you need to put in later on. Water board has a maintenance section. Most water board will have a maintenance section. If it's a pipe burst, if there is if there's any issues on the water pressure law, or in upgrading of something, they are the people who are going to be responding to it. So they will need income in order to do it. And the income will definitely come from the taxpayer, meaning that people pay tax and this will go to the different departments to do maintenance work. So when there's no money to do that, that means the facilities will not be looked after, and then the taxpayer will still be the people who's going to suffer from the non-maintenance of the facility. So again, we see a lot of Malaysia itself, our country itself, a lot of facilities are actually very badly maintained. Because we talk about building, we talk about putting a lot of money into construction, but then later on, the maintenance and operation just sort of like slides off completely, or it's just not in the mind of anybody in that sense. So it is a very big area, O&M, operation and maintenance management. So in project management, in any of the construction project management, in civil engineering, O&M is coming up to be not is it coming up, it's already a big, huge topic, it's a big, huge area. And cost management is also part of that as well. So you don't ignore that, okay? And of course, value as in whether you are actually building it, optimized, the facilities are actually optimized, is actually having good performance without paying too high the price, you see. When you pay 1,000, at least if you get 1,000 worth, it's fine, that is good value. But if you're paying 1,000 and you're getting 500 worth of things, then it's not good value. When you pay 1,000 and you get 1,100, of course you are having a good value, you see. So these are what we mean by value. So get that concept into your cost management. Remember that when you're doing your cost management, okay? So these are the basic things that you need to think about, okay? And then we talk about resources, project resources. This resources thing, I'm not going to go through with you much. Okay, so we have earlier on design, consultants, and all that, selection of contract type procurement, and all that, and then of course the management of people, contractor selection. We talk about machineries, materials, methods. These are all the M's that you need to worry about. Manpower, material, machineries, methods. And these are basically resources that you need to work on, okay? This bit here, okay, so then the next slide. The first part one of the notes is about strategy. Coming up with the strategies, needing to have the strategies, and then the three other factors that needs to be worked into your strategies as well when you're doing cost management: the value, the life cycle, and also the funding. So these three things put together with a good costing strategy, we will definitely off to do some nitty-gritty things that you need to work on, to get it right. So this section 1 is just covering what we call the overview in that sense of what we need to do, as a cost, as a project manager. So this part 2 here, the first thing is you need to get your cost definition up correctly. So cost definition will involve, first and foremost, your work breakdown. So the first technique is, if we look at the project life cycle, we look at the project life cycle, and we also look at the different parts of the project life cycles, and we look at our scope management. You see, our scope management in the different part of the project life cycle, it grows, isn't it? So the project life cycle, from the needs and demands all the way to the needs and demands, to conceptual, to preliminary, to final design, to development of the project, selection of options and all that, conceptual selection of options, the robustness test and all that, and then you follow on into the preliminary designs, and then followed by the final designs, and then procurement, tendering, procurement, and all that, and then finally construction and contract management. So these are the whole life cycle of the project. And then later on, we move into operation and maintenance, and then project close out. So this entire project life cycle, you will see that your scope will grow. You know, your scope level of detailedness will grow. So from the initial idea, going into the concept, coming up with the scope definition, and then after that moving into some form of robustness test, and then option test, robustness test, and then feasibility studies, your scope will start to materialize. It will start to get more and more clear. And then once you've defined your scope with WBS, you see your cost is going through the same process. This is like a parallel line, It's like a parallel thing together. So when you're doing that needs and demands, idea, concept coming up, conceptual studies, option studies, and doing the preliminary design, when you're developing the project, developing of the idea into some form of preliminary designs, and then followed by detailed designs, and then having tendering, procurement, contract, setting up. You see, your scope is actually growing. And then every step along the way, every single step along the way, costing is a good friend that will go hand in hand. Okay? It will be together. You don't do costing during tendering stage. You don't ignore that and say that, I don't care. We will just do it once. We will go and look for a contractor, and the contractor will be the one doing the cost estimates. And then you depend on the contractor to do the cost estimates. So you don't start there. Cost estimates don't start in tendering. It starts as earlier on as possible. And in your costing strategy, doing the estimation, how good you are in doing the estimation is already the first step. So it's not difficult. That you don't think about cost strategy as something, wow, it's so big, it's like a big word that you're using. Strategizing, Initially, when you are doing the needs and ideas, there are things that you can do. There are techniques that you can embark on to maybe use something like a subjective estimates, an expert opinion. You can actually get a sketch on how that particular cost will be like for that particular project. Very simple, very no information required, not much of information, not much of hard data required. You already can do some form of cost estimation. And then once you move into a conceptual studies, you can do things like an analogy estimates, some form of comparative estimates. You see, so from there you get a better idea of how much the project will cost. Then as you move into your feasibility studies and doing your robustness tests, obviously you need to have some strategies to actually create the numbers, you see. And those techniques that let's not use the word strategy, this is what technique. There's some techniques that you can use in order to come up with the costing. And then with that costing, you can do your economic analysis, which like something that Dr. Lee has gone through with you as well. So with that economic analysis, you can do your option studies and which one is a better options and all that. So you see, when you are carefully going through the scope, your cost is coming in together each and every time. And why do we need that? Why are you bothered? Why are you bothering with that? Because you do not want to embark onto the project when you don't have enough funding. And when you don't know where your sources of funding is, and you don't know the funding's commitment is. So each and every step along the way, if you're at that conceptual stage, at that project development stage, at that preliminary design stage, feasibility study stage, option study stage, if you have costing numbers to it, it actually helps to do decision making among the funders and the sponsors of the project. You may as well don't have that at all. I mean, like if you don't, you might as well don't do the project at all if you don't know the numbers. So those numbers are very important for us to get whether this is a worth it project or not, whether this is good to go, whether we have the money to go. You see, so as early on as possible, we do not want to wait until the final design is done and then you send it up and then the government say, oh, sorry, for this time I have no money. You do not want that to happen. You're wasting too much of effort doing too many things to come out to that stage, and then you're being told that there's not enough money. And yeah, it's good to be told that there is not enough money, there's not enough funding to do this. Or the other thing is you do it. You design something and then it's like the money looks okay, but then you realize that, hey, this is going to be very, very expensive for us to do the maintenance work later on. And it may, like the example that I gave you, you may have a high maintenance and operation cost that will create a very bad marketing because you're selling your property, you're selling those property, and they are not going to sell because of this reason later on. So it's better to catch the problem then rather later on when you finish building it already, then you realize that there is a LCC problem, there is a funding problem, there is value problem. You see, so along the way, you need to think about this so that when you reach the stage of procurement, you've already sorted out majority of the issues already with money. Okay, and it's possible. Then you move on into the procurement stage. So we don't do cost estimation during procurement stage. We do cost estimation earlier on. Okay, so with cost estimation, the easiest way, of course, you need to have your WBS. So obviously, earlier stages, your WBS is not very complete now. It's going to be like maybe just a layer 1, and then as you move along into your preliminary design, into your final design, your WBS will start to get more and more detailed. The WBS will form in a very, very concise way. And then from that final concise WBS is the part that you can do a very good estimation. So with this, you need to know there's many types of estimates. Okay, so when we talk about estimates, we have a few types here. Ballpark, like order of magnitude, ballpark estimates. Ballpark estimates is just like, the word ballpark is just like a guess. Really, it's a guess. So you need to know what is the upper limit, what is the lower limit, and then you make a guess about what is the what is that particular project will cost. And this will usually come in the earlier stages in the needs and demands when the idea is being created, especially in the conceptual studies. You do things like the analogy estimates, you do things like the comparative estimates. So what do we mean by analogy estimates? What do we mean by comparative estimates? What do we mean by conceptual? They are being used interchangeably. So analogy or comparative estimates is basically you take an existing project or an old project, and then you take the overall, the whole project cost, construction cost for the whole project, and you divide with a variable. You can divide with the numbers of houses, you can divide with the floor areas, the total floor areas, to get the per unit that you need. Let's say if you are dividing by per unit, for example, per number of houses. This project is 50 million for 50 houses or for 50 stories or whatever. So from there, you divide, you get the numbers, the RM per unit, and then you times it with the quantity or the unit that is available in your project. So this is a very simple, very straightforward estimate. So for analogy estimates, we are, we start with quite conceptual estimates, and the technique that we're basically using is the analogy estimates or comparative estimates. So you can take it from, let's say, like you say, it involves determining the overall units and scaling them to a known value. So you can take it as over time, length, width, scope, numbers, numbers of pound, number of lines, number or whatever that is done. So it's a very, very overall, very wholesome project. Like, let's say if I have a project that cost me 30 million and I'm building like 30 million for a 10 acres project. So this 10 acres project, so I'll take 10 acres, I'll take 30 million divided by 10 acres. So per acre, my construction cost is 3 million. Okay. So then in my new project, similar to whatever I'm building here, this project is a 15-acre project. I times it with 15 acres and I get the idea of how much this new project is going to be costing. Okay. This is not going to be, like I say, this is not going to be the perfect ever estimate kind of thing. It's going to be plus or minus 30 to 50% kind of wrong, like arrows kind of thing. Because you really you're actually not having a lot of data to work with. You only have some numbers to work with. So it's just like you're building a highway. So your highway is KM. The old project 2 years ago, the old project, you build it, is 50 million for how many km? Okay. So you just divide it up, and then times it with your current project, which is like 20 km. So you get a ballpark estimate of how much it will cost. So we call it an analogy estimate or a comparative estimate. Okay. So it is very useful during the conceptual stage. So we sometimes call it a conceptual studies. And it's also important to use this sort of estimates because in the option studies, you really don't have much data yet. You are trying to determine whether you're going to build 2 km, 4 lanes, or 10 km, 2 lanes, for example. The options, during the option studies, you don't have so much data as what are the road sizes, what are the different layers that you're going to put down, what are the overall, what is every single detail in your design. There's no such thing yet. So this is a good estimate to be carrying out during that time, you see. So we use it, especially for project screening. Is it worth it? Especially the idea during the conception, during the feasibilities, during the project selection stage. This will be a good technique to use to actually get some form of cost estimation to know whether the funding is available or whether there is ability or capability in terms of cost and cash flow from the company to actually confirm and embark onto this before you move in to develop the project further. So during the second stage, when you're developing the project, when the WBS is forming, okay, you will embark onto, you may use this technique here, the second layer kind of technique, which is the preliminary, which you will definitely use it a lot during the preliminary studies and also maybe feasibility studies, preliminary studies, and also the design, the preliminary design. So these are the time that we will use what we call this sort of like budget preliminary estimates. So this preliminary estimates, a lot of technique that we are using is parametric estimates. And a lot of you are like thinking like, I've explained this before. So subjective estimate doesn't belong here. Just subjective estimates is like an expert opinion. So parametric estimates, 3-point estimates, these are the kind of estimates that we will use it here. So parametric estimates, how different is it from analogy estimate? Analogy estimate is overall, a very overall project. You take it as the word analogy is like an example, comparison between one project to the other project. So you only basically take one parameters during the analogy estimate. But for parametric estimates, you will need to know there are different parts of the project that you can use. Right? This project, you have water, you have got sewage, you've got road, you've got house. So with different parameters, you are setting up the estimates for the different parameters that you determine. So basically, you determine the parts of the project which you can potentially use as parametric estimates. work breakdown is a good starting point. So you can look at your work breakdown. You've got the list of work breakdown. It may not be like third layer, second layer. It can be just one layer, one stretch of work breakdown with some part second layer. Then what you do is you say, oh, now you know that there's this component, this component, this component. There's about 10 components of your project. You've got 10 parameters here. So from each of these 10 parameters, what you can do is you take the whole project or historical data or the recent project. So what are the sources? You can take it from internally, your own previous old project, or externally, you can get your, another company who are actually in the project in that area to actually get some ideas, or you can use some form of like publication, for example, CIDB or JKR, they have some data that is valuable on this sort of things. So you can take it from them, and then you can do the estimates for the different parameters that you have selected. So what you can do, you can take one project. Let's say you have an internal project that is built just finished. So the cost is quite fresh. You take it, you look into the parameters that you can see from your project, and then you go to their project, go to the old project and look at those parameters there, and what does each of the parameter contributes to the overall cost. You can say that, let's say there's 5 components. Now, in your project, you determine 5 components that you want to look at. So then the construction cost for those previous project is already there, but you need to split it up into the 5 parameters. So how much of component A, B, C, D, E will contribute to the final cost of the project. So from there, take the quantity of those all parameters, that one parameter A, B, C, D, E, each and every one of these, you take their parts or take each their unit, and then you divide it into a unit cost, and then times it with the parameters within your project. So the difference between analogy and parametric estimates is basically parametric estimates will have a bit more detail. And they are important, especially in the proposal stage of the project. Very, very proposal stage. It's like when you're doing a presentation, when you're going to a client and propose a new idea for a project, and then you've got some layouts of the buildings, of the zones and all that, very nicely all done. The client will ask you, how much do you think the project will cost? See? So this is a type of estimates that is going to be very useful when it comes to that kind of stage for the project. It's not a ballpark anymore. Ballpark is just it's a good guess. Okay, this one is already considered as some form of details coming in. Okay, so here we've got some formulas that you can use. So you can take the estimates of parameter 1, and then it will be estimates of the previous project for that particular parameters, and then you divide over the whole quantity. Actually, the formula can be written another way. So divide by P10, meaning that the parameter, the unit of the P1, okay, let's say the P1 is 2 km, and then times it with the current your project, the current project value, the quantity of, let's say, 1.5 km or 6 km or whatever. So then you get that parameter. So with the different parameters, you add up to be the cost of your project. Okay, so this is parametric estimates. Any questions so far? Oh, I've been talking for the whole almost 2 hours already.
No.
No, huh? What about others? Like I think Richard, you all have gone through this with me more or less. So, like Roland, anything that you want to share? Curry?
No, doctor.
Is it understandable? I think you all are falling asleep. Oh dear. I also honestly felt that this topic is very dry in that sense. very dry for me. Okay, but anyway, yeah, I will go into. I mean, like, I think this technique is something that is some of it is revision, some of it is actually something that you've kind of used, but then you're not really sure if you're doing the right thing. And hopefully, this one is going to be helpful in your workplace. That when you're especially consulting, also you use a lot of these parametric estimates as well, and analogy estimates. All these are usually earlier on in the project, whereby you are actually trying to gauge the cost of the project or the construction cost of the project. Then we will move into the definitive and definitive and also detailed estimates. So definitive estimates is something that consultants do a lot. Okay, we call it substantiative estimates because this is the time that you will actually design. You've already finished the design. You've basically carried out the designs already, and then you are preparing for the estimate so that the client get a gauge on how much to expect before you go to tender, before the procurement process starts. Procurement will start from deciding the procurement method, followed by the contract method, followed by the tendering method, and followed by the contract documents. So these are the 4 areas in procurement. So before these 4 areas start to proceed, you see, your definitive estimates needs to be out. And for definitive estimates, we normally will use an OOP rates. What do you mean by OOP rates? So we will have a good work breakdown. By now, by this stage, we will have a very clear work breakdown structure because the design is completed or almost all completed. So from each and every one of these work that is available, we will create what we call an OOP rate. An OOP rate is a combination of a few rates, meaning that in that OOP rate, you will include material, you include machineries, you include miscellaneous plus manpower and all that. So you will get a combination. So that combination is like everything all in one rate. So this all in one rate, you just times it with the quantity of your project. Let's say the total quantity of your concrete for this particular section is this much, 1,000 meter cube. You times it with a rate that almost have everything in it, So it's always a very general, very big rate. You don't split it up into like definite detailed estimates. Detailed estimates, you will be very clear. What does each and every manpower cost? What does each machinery cost over how long? Those are very detailed estimates. This is OOP rate. Normally, a lot of contractors can give you OOP rates. A lot of consultants also can give you OOP rates. And they are quite familiar because why do I say consultants give you OOP rate? Because consultants, they do not know the flow, the numbers of people that you are putting in for that particular job. So you will put in, like, let's say, concrete, in your head, to pump 1 meter cube of concrete, you're talking about maybe 300 ringgit per meter cube of concrete cost, plus 2 men working, maybe it's about 50, roughly it's about $50 per day. So you put in about $50 per day. This is pumping of that 1 meter cube is going to be about a day, less than a day. So a day kind of cost. So with that, 50 ringgit plus 300 ringgit, you're going to have 2 men working, vibrating everything together. Altogether, it's about 400 ringgit. So if you need any machine or equipment attached to it, you add in another 100 ringgit. And then you add in another 100 ringgit for any miscellaneous or any risk or whatever. So that's about 600 ringgit. So for that cost, that 600 ringgit, you will just times it with the quantity. So that will be a very substantial thing. It's just to substantiate the cost of the project. It's just to give an idea, of how much the project will cost. Because at the end of the day, there's no flow, there's no work procedures, there's no like how you're going to make sure that who is working, who is not working, which machine is working and which machine is not working. There is no full site work plan yet, because this is actually at the stage of before tendering, to give a gap to the client of how much he will be expecting to see from the tenderer later. So there will be still a good chance, about 5 to 10% plus or minus kind of errors within definitive estimates. And then when you come to detailed estimates, if we go more than 3% kind of estimates, I think that contractor will probably go and commit suicide already lah, huh? You know, like most contract, if a proper tender contract with no political background or anything support, no Alibaba in between, that sort of things, we are definitely looking at maybe less than 10% of profit. And if your error is more than 3% kind of error, I think that contractor will really, really nangis, call and cry and really don't know. It's like they are going to be in serious trouble. So when we talk about detailed estimates, anything of a 1 to 3% kind of error is already considered as a very, very serious error. See? Profit alone also not even 10%. You're talking about 3% error. Before you know it, all your profit will be gone. You see? If your profit is gone, then what are you doing the project for? Charity? Cannot be, you know. So we want to do charity work for the government, for the people. I don't think anyone of us is that noble. We want to make money. We want to continue our company. We want to carry out work, you know, to carry out future projects. You see. So 1 to 3% is something that is considered. 1% is already quite serious. I mean, if I said 3%, that contractor probably is in a huge, you know, like his heart is probably bleeding, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, but he will probably still continue to do the project. But if anything more than that, I think he might as well just tell, if he finds out that he has more than 3% kind of error to his calculation, he might as well just tell the client, I quit, you know, I don't think I can do this project, you know. I mean, it's better that way than you embark onto a project and then go into a huge cash flow negative, you know, for the other projects that you're actually carrying out, you see. So what is detailed estimates? Okay, we will go into that. That is one of our major hot topic here. And there's other things here, so parametric estimates, I explain it, and then you know this is part of the upper things that I've spoken about. Subjective and expert opinion. This is a bit like a judgment, expert judgment. It's just like me calling out Roland and say, hey Roland, you know, I'm doing a highway here, you know, of 10 km, you know, and it's going to be like, you know, 3 layers, you know, and then it's going to be 2 lanes, you know, sort of things. So I described my ideas to him, you know, a little bit. And then because let's say he has been doing this for like 20 years in this highway, you know, road kind of project. Then you said, how much do you think it will cost? You know, and then you can actually give me a very simple, very expert, very subjective kind of opinion. You know, and then this one here is, we use it a lot. It's not like we don't use this at all, you know. I mean, it's like, we have friends, you know, we call up our friends, you know, that's why you need to have friends, you know, you cannot be an island. And because you have friends, you give them a call. Like, let's say I've been working in the water industry for 20 years, you know, somebody call me out, I can very easily tell them, it's going to be like this, rough, like that, you know, I got, you know. So then that person will have an idea, okay, right. So I'm looking at that. So what do you use this for? You know, this is just to get, especially during the conceptual, during the initial stage whereby there's no data or very, very little data available, not even enough of data, or not even enough data for you to ballpark your project, like the earlier one, the analogy or the comparative estimates. So this is the earliest, a very, very basic, very fundamental kind of estimates that we have. Okay, so for analogy estimates here, there is another thing that I need you to also realize. So I need to realize that, you know, when we talk about analogy estimates, it's not only about cost, your project cost equal to your cost of your whole historical project, okay, and then times by the index. The main thing is the index here. The index is something that you want to, you know, for normal analogy estimates, if we go by 1-to-1, then it will be like, okay, I take the old project, I divide by the numbers of houses or by the floor areas in total, and I get the per meter square, and then from there I times it with my 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 project punya index. I mean my project punya quantity. That is straightforward. Okay. So for comparative estimates, and when I give you this formula, the one reason why I'm not putting it down as a quantity, I mean, because I want you to know that it is better to have some form of factoring to it, meaning that most times we may not get a straightforward direct analogy estimate, you see, the one-to-one analogy estimates. Normally, we will also still factor down a little bit, meaning that the cost of the cost of the project, the whole project, we will make sure that because the project is actually carried out, let's say previously, there will always be a time factor there that will actually create some form of factoring. So it's good to have some form of factoring, either factor up or factor down. But normally, the index will factor down so that our cost will be factored up. See, so your actual cost is going to be a bit more. You see, you want to be a bit more, but of course there are situations whereby you want to factor it down also lah. So yeah, so this bit here, the word that we use is indexes, so that we are playing with some factoring here. So you want to times it 1.5 ga, or you want to times it by 1.2 ga, you know. So when we divide the quantity over the quantity, you know, you may want to when we get that factor, you want to either factor it up or factor it down. So there are formula that I previously given to some of my old students is we will power it to the 2/3, you see. That is one of the very common factoring. And you don't really have to always factor it to a 2/3. It can still be a 1, you know. But I mean you know sorry, what you call what am I talking about? It's like you don't really have to always, you know, be taking the factor as it is. So you can actually factor it up, take it down. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. So this formula here, the word index will mean that way lah. So when we talk about analogy estimates, I didn't really give you the formula in the upper bit of the notes. I make it a special section here. Okay. Because of this reason, this one part of table is not a table. Table. Why do I put a table? One is usually the old project, and then the cost two is the one that you're looking at the moment. Okay. So one, if let's say you have old project that is 2,000 meter cube, you know, and then the new one is 3,000 meter cube. So the new one is 3,000 divided by the old one, 2,000. Then that index you'll be looking at 3,000 divided by 2,000 is what? 1.2. Is it 1.2? Where's my calculator? Can somebody calculate for me? Wait, 3,000 divided by 2,000. Yeah, it's 1.5. So your index will be 1.5. Okay, so that is a direct, straightforward analogy estimate. But if you need to factor it up, you know, you may want to times it upwards. So you may want to factor another extra 2 times, 1.5 times, then it will actually make a difference to your cost. Okay, so that one will help in terms of doing a better analogy estimates in that sense, comparative and analogy estimates. Do you guys understand so far? Okay, then so this accuracy of all the estimates, and then of course as you go along, the arrows is a little bit more earlier stages, you will have more arrows, and then later on the arrows should be a lot more smaller already. Okay, so we're very theoretical stuff, huh? I'm not going to go through this a lot with you. This is going to be S-curve already. So before we finish up with this part here, the detail estimates, okay? So detail estimates, I've previously shown this to some of my students before, and I'll show it to you as well. Detail estimates requires you to actually, this is going to be important for you to do your assignments, huh? So when you do a detail estimate, okay, you need to, first and foremost, you need to create what we call the work breakdown structure, which most of you are already quite good at it. I've shown you this before, I think. So basically you've done, like, let's say, you've split up your work accordingly. Okay. And when you, especially as a contractor, when you're going in for a tender, so you break out the work accordingly, then you will have a section on manpower. Okay, you also have a section on materials. Well, first and foremost, you definitely have to have quantity first. So each and every one of this, the quantity of the work that you're looking at, you need to break down first. Okay. Then from there, you will be looking into splitting up your resources. Each and every one of this will actually comprise of some form of resources. So the best way for me is, let's say, if I were to do, I've shown this to my undergraduate studies before, and most of them do understand this. Let me see if I can recall what kind of, yeah, this one. Okay. So what normally we would do is, it's better for you to actually have an estimator sheet. So what happens is, once you've done your work breakdown structure, like this, and then you determine the quantity first, because this is something that is very certain you can do it first. So with this quantity and this work description that you have, the work breakdown and the quantity, what you can do is you go to, you can create an estimation sheet like this. This is like a detailing sheet. It's just like how you do your calculation. Like if you do design, if you're in a consultant firm, you always have this paper at the back there, that you do some formula and some calculations and all that. So this is something like that. So what you need to do is you can break it down into materials, labor, and machineries. So what you need to do is you can look at each and every one of the work that you have. You can take it and then you can put down the labor, the machineries, the material needed. So you put it down first. But just do some squaring off first. So for this manufacturing of formwork, for that particular, let's say if you have this bit here where you talk about formwork, okay? So you've got formwork. So this formwork for this particular activity, you kind of write, you kind of like write it in a way that you put it down. The quantity is this much, and the labor is this much, and the machineries that is used is this one. Okay, so once you've got it written down, okay, every one of this written down, like sort of like a squaring sheet, what you do is you take it and then you input into your resources sheet. So once you've done that, you will actually be able to, some of you will design it in such a way that you go by gang. So let's say I have my one gang, like gang A, you will have one hydraulic excavator working and two men working, for example. So you already define the numbers for the gang, you see, and then I do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I like it better. I mean, it can be better if you just go by the actual quantity. So yeah, but it's really up to individual. So let's say gang A, gang B, gang C, you've got a fixed number of people and a fixed number of equipment with that particular gang. So you can split up, like gang A is mainly on excavation, gang B is mainly on piling, gang C is mainly on compacting, for example. So you've got different people, different groups and all that. So from there, you can determine the gang's productivity rate first. So from the productivity rate, you will be able to get the duration. From the duration, you will start to know the cost of the project. Okay, so what happened is this is one way of creating a detailed breakdown. Okay, a detailed breakdown. At the end of the day, I am expecting, like, what I'm expecting from you all will be, a proper calculation sheets like this to list down all your work and to list down the final will be a proper totaling up of your estimation. So the main tedious work will come in here, like in these sections here. So you can have a material sheet. So what you can do is you can have a work breakdown with the material sheets, and material sheets you can put in the rate, and you need to write in your report. I mean, like, it is good to have this kind of practice. So you write, okay, the costing calculation, I have my work breakdown, you explain your work breakdown. From your work breakdown, you explain first material, cost of material. So cost of material is something that you need to calculate first, because the numbers and all that will be fixed. It's not time dependent. So in your report, you will write, okay, for my work, this is the material required. For this particular work, these are the material required. And these are the material required, these are the costs. And where do I get the cost from? The cost is referred to from JKR or from CIDB or from whatever calculation that you have. You prove the calculation to me. You prove the sources of the calculation to me. Okay. So once you prove that, you enter into your Excel worksheet. Okay. And in your report, you need to explain first. You need to explain that this is how this activity, the material costs are being calculated. This particular part of the table. Then in your calculation sheet, which you can actually put in your appendix like this later on, you will put down the detail of what you've entered and all that. So it's important that, as a detailed estimates, we must have a system. If it's not systematic, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to work out your cost plan, your cost strategies. So in detailed estimates, we do the material first, and then for the material, you move on to do the machineries and the manpower. Okay, so either you do your machinery and manpower as a gang, or you can do it based on individual, or it can be a combination of gang and individual. But you need to attach productivity rate and also time duration, because each gang will cost how much per day. So let's say if your gang is 1 dump truck plus 1 excavator plus 3 person plus 1 operator, your cost for 1 gang is 2,000 or 3,000 per day. So this 3,000 per day, you need to work out how much work can this gang do in a day. If they can only do half an acres a day, then how long will it take for the gang to do 16 acres? So then your time duration number will be out. So this 16 days times by $3,000 will be your cost for that particular work. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So it's either, you can actually work it out. There's few ways of working out. There's no fixed format, honestly. There's some work may not be gang. Some work is just purely human. You see, like human work, or there's no machineries involved. So let's say bricklaying, for example. Okay, so you only have this guy with some tools and all that. So this guy with some tools and cement and mortar and bricks. You know, bricks and cement mortars are actually under materials already. So the labor for that one guy with that bucket and that little spade thing is going to be working, you know, so that scrapper thing is going to be working, that they can do like, you know, 200 bricks a day. So this 200 bricks a day, this man working is for this particular wall of the project is going to be how many days? You see, so if he can only do 200 bricks and that wall that they have the quantity is how much? You know, and that is finished, that's going to be finished in 2 days or 5 days or 6 days. So his cost for per day is bricklayer $50 per day. Then it's $50. You must know where the sources of this $50 is. Where does it come from? And this $50 for 5 days, this cost of the brickwork for manpower is going to be 50 times 5 days is 250 ringgit. Okay, so this will be the cost of that manpower for the wall, and then the brick, how much, the mortar, cement, how much, add up. So then combination, that work will be how much, that particular work pile, wall or whatever is how much. You see, so this is how we will add up the combine our work. So you must create a system. If you create a good system, like I said, one of the examples that I have here is to have this sort of writing down this sort of estimation sheets, you know, like you put in the quantity, you put in the numbers of machineries and manpower and all that. You get that all sorted out first, each activity one by one, and then you don't throw this away, you know, you can put it in the appendix to show us that you've done this sort of like a quantity takeoff kind of thing. And then you input that into different sections. Or, like I said, you can actually directly go to an Excel worksheet like this. Material is material, labor is labor, machinery is machineries, or labor, machineries combined and all that. And then you create that particular sheet. And then from there, you work out on the unit rate of that item, whether it's material, whether it's manpower, whether it's machinery. Like I said, manpower and machinery are always attached with time. And then you can calculate times it with the rate. So it is very important for us to see that your understanding from this particular study is actually to be able to create that system. Okay, I do not want to see, the worst that I can see is something like this. You know, something like this. This is like a copy from a BQ. Okay, I don't really like this sort of way. I mean, it's like neither here nor there. I mean, I really like it properly if you can split out the thing carefully through this sort of methods. I mean, this is still okay. This is still okay. You know, this is previous assignments done, and I give you the good examples of what people have done. It's really nice. So this is still okay. But I do not like this sort of like wording in that sense, in that way. This is too much of a BQ. For a cost estimate for B is you come up with that particular calculation sheets or some form of estimation sheets or some form of, you know, worksheet like this. So from here, you will calculate the final cost. And then this cost here, most people, you know, when they create BQ, they should do this first. Once this is done, then they take the work here and then write the BQ and then take the sum here and do the quantity and then do the conversion into a BQ format. So don't straight away jump into a BQ and then try to work out your cost based on the BQ. This is a wrong mentality. And I know a lot of people will skip. You know, they will skip all this. They will straight away go to a BQ, like go to the BQ and fill up the BQ. It's just like a contractor. You don't do your cost estimation sheet at all like this. This is not done at all. None of this is done. They don't plan their work. They don't sequence their work. They don't see how the work flow. They straight away go to the BQ that is given by the consultant and they fill out. Oh, this one is the quantity here is 500. Like put in how much detail, and then that become for me is like a definitive estimates. When you have definitive estimates, where you put down the OOP rate, this is what you do. So don't do that. It's very dangerous. It's actually a wrong thing to do. You will have a good chance if you just fill up the BQ. Do it in a BQ way, you will definitely get an answer that is not going to be close to the actual cost of the project. The error is going to be a lot more higher. So as contractors, as anybody who's doing estimating, get your estimation sheet done out first. And then after that, convert them into a BQ. Okay, because a BQ is not everything you stated in this sort of work breakdown manner. You know, there was just a supply and delivery and whatever construction of this, it's not like it's a very simple writing up, and then you need to lump all your costs into one rate, you know. And it's very, very dangerous. For me, BQ is more like, if you go straight to the BQ method, it's a consultant. There's a consultant manner of an all up definitive substantiative work. You can do a BQ method. But a proper estimation should start off from a proper estimation files, estimation sheets. And then from the estimation sheets, when we have this total like this, then you convert each and every one of these into a BQ. Then baru makes sense. Okay? Detailed estimates is not difficult, but it is very time consuming. It is very nitty gritty, you know, and then to do that in the report format, you need to show us where the numbers come from, where the figures come from. You are master's graduates, you need to prove to your client that these numbers, these figures is from somewhere. It is not just undergraduate studies. This one I simply put 18720, you know. This one I put 65,000 then upward 5,000 boleh you know, something like that. And then I got the thing no we will look at your report, we will see if your costing work makes sense. Even though you do a costing work for the first 3 activities, and then the rest of the activity you are prepping up yourself, put in numbers, but at least we know that in the first place, in the report, that you do explain how you come up with the cost. So we will only have to assume that the rest of everything that you put down is actually making sense, but it's cheating yourself like that in a way, But yeah, but it must be written in the presentable format, in that sense, for you to see that you know, all the numbers actually come from somewhere, right? Then you can have a grand total, profit, contingency, wastage, and that will be your costing. Any questions so far on this?
No, doctor. But no, doctor. Just one question, doctor.
Okay.
Are we expecting to do also the weightage, contingency apa?
You can have the final cost, and
Yeah.
then after that you add in contingency and wastage. That is fine. You can do the last few lines.
Because the grand total will be put inside the Microsoft project under the costing to get the S curve.
Yes, correct.
Grand total Okay, doctor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think it's not going to be that much of a challenge for any one of you, I mean, for me, it's just that when you're doing the detailing and then the report presentation, it's going to be the hardest bit. Most students, they don't know how to flow the thing well in that way. So this is something that I really want to see, you know, if you can do it or not. And this practice, I hope that, you know, these estimation sheets that you created and all that, I want to see your creation of the estimation sheet, because I want to see whether you truly understand. And then this estimation sheet, you can use it actually in the future for your other project as well, like the actual real life project. But you only have to change of the parameters or change of the work breakdown, but the formatting can be there already. So I feel like this is a very useful kind of way, because for my practice as an engineer, I see that a lot of people are just going straight in and doing up the BQ kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, like some contractors, they do their own estimation sheet. I mean, obviously they don't show you, but it is better to have a proper estimation sheet first before you complete the BQ in that sense. So this is not a BQ project. This is not for you all to give me a BQ, copy and paste some BQ from one of your project in your office and show it to me. This is your costing. If you do that, I will peng sang. Okay. So if you do that, I peng sang, I will just give you song. Okay. Because otherwise, you're not listening to the instruction. The instruction is to come up with the estimation sheet, complete the complete the project calculation estimation, and every component should have explanation and every section. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. Sorry. I'm not saying that. Sorry. What am I doing? I'm not saying that. Every section as in okay. Every single one of these you need to explain. Every single one of these you need to explain. No. What I'm saying is for material you need to explain. For manpower you need to explain an overall explanation of where you get the rates from, where you get the numbering from. And from there, explain it in your report, and then show me some tables and some sort of like a write up to make sure that everything is explained properly before you show me the estimation sheet, maybe in the last bit of the report or in the appendix of the report. Then you will be very clearly can see that okay, so this part is correlating with your part B of the report is correlating with this manpower of the report. And they can see that the explanation of 2 here is seen here, 2 in that you insert. So these are the things that I want to see. Not so much of give me a BQ, give me a BQ, give me a BQ, and I fill up the BQ, and then you copy some BQ from some office document, and then this is it. My costing calculation is here. Okay, so already reminded us, so don't give me that. Okay. So budgeting, I think, is very clear. Once you've got your estimation done, you need to the difference between estimate and the budget. So whatever I've been teaching you just now, like going through parametric estimate and the logic estimates, different times we've used different kind of estimates, and then combine that with value, with life cycle, with funding, then it is a complete pre-commitment strategy. Okay, so once you got your final estimate all carried out ready, whether you're from a consultant or whether you're a contractor going in for a tender, your procurement process will start. So once your procurement process is start, the procurement finished, the contract will be awarded. When the contract is awarded, your estimate will turn into a budget. So an estimate is basically detailing, a lot of detailing. So when you have a BQ is a way of presenting your budget during the procurement session. So in your procurement sessions, you're actually coming up with a nice write-up to support the drawings, to support the specifications, to support the project document. So it's part of a BQ is part of the project document so that they can correlate with one another. And that is during the procurement stage. Pre-commitment for cost stage is just basically doing a proper job in terms of coming up with the different estimates, different stage of the project. Get the funding, get the costing, get the life cycle costing, get the value engineering, all done at this stage. Then from there, you enter into a procurement stage. And in this procurement stage, you will create something like a BQ for the tenderer to fill up. And why a BQ? Why don't you ask the contractor to submit their own estimation? You cannot do that because every contractor, their planning of work is different. You need to give them a standard format to fill. Okay? So that's why there's a need for a BQ. A BQ is a format that is fair to every single person out there. Every 5 contractor that comes in and tender, you give them the drawings, the BQ, the information, the specification, the contract document. Everybody is having the same level playing field. You see? So you cannot say that you need to get the contractor to come up with their own costing sheets. They will go back and do their own costing sheets, arrange their own workflow, but they need to fill up the same BQ, you see? So at the end of the day, that BQ amount will be the amount that will be considered as a budget. And the budget can be a top-down budget, it can be a bottom-up budget. Bottom-up budget means that, you do all the estimation, you tell the client this is how much it's going to cost, and he confirms on the commitment. That is the bottom-up budget. But top-down budget will be, like let's say government agency, federal say, I'm going to give you 5 billion to do this. So then you split up into different project, the cost, and then you come up with the project, and then you create the cost. That is top-down budget. So budgeting here, project budgeting, okay, is part of planning. Okay, it can be top down, it can be bottom up. And then what else? Yeah, this bit here up to page 10. Yeah, it's all about estimates and the benefit of doing a good estimates and all that. Sort of like all this very theoretical stuff. And then budgeting, and these are the part of the notes here on top down and bottom up budget. So these are something that I need to add in later on. Yeah, I better highlight here so that I remind myself. Okay, so once you understand budget, the estimates has been confirmed, then we will move into, this is already considered as a budgeting stage. You already go into the procurement stage, the contract is already awarded, and then the budget is confirmed. Okay, once the budget is confirmed, then it's basically we're going into the day in, day out of cost monitoring. So the third part of the costing strategy is to get the estimation, get the controlling bit in place. So what do you mean by getting a controlling bit in place? So S-curve is one of the most common methods for checking the for controlling, because every month we submit S-curve, it shows the money that's being spent, it shows the the plan value, it shows the earned value, it shows the actual cost of the project. So immediately with an S-curve is one of the very simple, very straightforward tools to use. So you know how to produce the S-curve. Basically, you would take the cost of the budget of the project for each and every one of the activity. So for example, if I have this activity here, for example, I have this activity, general works. So general works, it will be the grand total of about 280K lah. So this 280K, I will divide it. So general work, it will probably happen for the first 3 months of the project. So for financial S-curve, I will distribute it over 3 months. 280K divide over 3 months. Maybe first month a little bit less, is about 50K. Second month is a bit more. I will put in I'll put in 70K, another 70K, 70K, 100, 207, 280, 50K left over is 230K. So if I divide over the last 2 months, that would be about 115K. So 115K, 115K for the next 2 months. So you see, 280K, this is about 280K. I don't do I don't punch my calculator, I just look at the figure. So if this site clearance and site survey work, I need to complete it for the first 3 months. So I will distribute this 280K over the first 3 months. So you can have a very low beginning and a high ending, or equally distributed. It's up to you as a project manager. So what you do is, let's say if I say, first month, I probably will be more focusing on the survey work. I will just put in the 250K, 280K. So I put in my 50K first. So first month, 50K, the leftover is 230K. I distribute over 2 months, so 1 month is 115K. Then I follow in for my earthwork. My earthwork, I add up all my total and I distribute it over first 5 months, and then I will distribute it over equally, for example. So you do that for every single activity, and then you add it up 1 month by month, and then you do a cumulative, and you will get your S-curve. So that is, I think it's been already explained to you by Dr. Lee. So this is just a revision. So once you've done your S-curve, and it not necessarily look like an S. Sometimes it doesn't look like an S. So it's a indication of how the project budget will be spent over the construction project period. When it starts, when it ends. So you have a financial S-curve and you have a physical S-curve. Physical S-curve is done in a different way. I mean, it's a similar way, but then you need to split the percentage of the project first. The work, the weightage, and then the work, and then divide accordingly to the percentage. So this is I mean, the calculation, the unit is different, but the method is about the same. Okay. So S-curve is a very good technique. Once you've got that, you some of you say, every project I need to submit S-curve, I use S-curve for, So you are actually very bingo. I mean, I myself as an engineer at the beginning part of the project, I mean, at the beginning stage of my career, also I very at this point, of this doing this S-curve. So for me, it's like a show only, but not use it properly, combining with the EV technique. It is one of the most interesting techniques that you can use to detect whether you have a budget overrun and cost overrun, cost overrun and schedule overrun at the same time. So EV technique is I will explain EV technique straight away. It's 1.3 all the way down to 1.5 contingency, wastage, contingency, allowance for errors, and all that. These are part and parcels of your estimation that you need to think about. So this bit here is actually like what Roland was asking, is actually this thing here. Okay. So we actually do a bit of explanation in the notes as well on 1.3 to about 1.6 here. Okay. So in cost monitoring, we will, after you learn about S-curve, you can combine that into what we call an EV technique. EV technique is wait, where is it? Oh yeah. Okay. So EV technique is a plan value. Plan value is actually the budgeted cost of the work schedule. So meaning that you have whatever the first S-curve that you do. So you schedule your work, you've got your budgeted cost of the work, meaning that this is the whatever you've written there in your cost estimation sheet, you draw the S-curve. This is what we call a PV, a plan value. So you plan to spend this money over this period of time. Then you have an EV. Okay, your EV is basically budgeted cost of the work performed. So every month you will see that you will look at your schedule and you see that, okay, this is done, this is done, this is done. So once this is done, let's say for month 1, your surveying work is done already. So this surveying work done, then 50K is the budgeted cost of the work done. So what you do is month 1 work done, this is the amount that you've already spent. Then you put down there spent, okay, that this is done. So it's the budgeted cost of the work performed. The work, important work here is performed. You've already performed the work. So whatever work that you perform, the money that you take is still from that original budget that you have. Understand? So you key in there, the work performed is done already, and then the cost of that work is there. You complete it, strike it off, you add it into your new S-curve. So it's the same process that you do, but now it's the work that is performed. Month 1, you perform. Month 2, you perform. Month 3. So every month you have an EV. Okay. So this will be the second line that you draw. And then the actual cost is the actual expenditure of the project. So if, let's say at the end of the month, your account section gives you the amount of money. This is spent. So you key into the schedule. Then you will have 3 lines on that particular curve. You have these 3 lines here. I have a picture. Yeah. So you have these 3 lines here. Then you will always have a cutoff period. So from there, from the formula of PV, EV, and AC, straight away, with this technique, you can detect whether you have a budget overrun or not. So the formula is actually CV. CV is a cost variance, is EV minus AC. Schedule variance will be EV over the PV, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Budgeted cost of the work. BCWS. Okay. Okay. So this one is here, sorry. Yes, SV is EV over minus PV, and then SCV is EV minus AC. So straight away from here, you can get the gap, the very fast gap. So whenever you submit your project as a contractor, whenever you submit your budget into your your budgeting into your work. I mean, when you are going in, you submit your S-curve. It's a good time to look at this. whether you present it, normally the client will ask you about EV and PV versus EV lah. They will get you to show the two lines, but you yourself can actually enter into your AC, and then you can do the calculation, and straight away you will get whether there's a cost variance or schedule variance, and it's a good technique to actually detect the problem straight away. Okay, so these are this is the major technique that we will do in order to use to control the project. So EV technique is a very, very fast, very simple, very straightforward technique for you to use. So this bit here, of course, is about cost control, whereby project cost control is about controlling, monitoring. I cannot emphasize on monitoring enough. If monitoring is not done, like expenditure list is not properly done every month, then you don't know whether you're overpaying people. So this checking of the invoices, of the bills and everything has to be very, very strictly done by a certain group of people, like let's say your site account clerk or your project coordinator. This has to be properly compiled and paid on time and properly. So these are the monitoring techniques. And so for month one, you're supposed to be spending this amount of money. This is the budget. And then month two, this is the budget of the cost schedule. Then you need to look into monitoring the actual cost that is being carried. The actual cost of work performed. So if your work performed is not up to standard, but your money is being spent already, then there is something very wrong with your cost. The costing will be very, very out of order in a sense. So you must be able to detect. The worst thing about problems is you don't detect it as early as you can. See, so again, like time, this is very similar. You will take your project reporting. You have your baseline, you have your cost. Then you will look at the progress and then converting that into the work done. And the work done, you need to consider that with the material board, the work with the manpower, the machineries, the expenditure of the project, and make a comparison. And this is about discipline, you see. So when the actual work done, how much is done, and how much was paid, you will compare that with the baseline. And if there is anything that is off the baseline, is something that you need to look at. If you are buying too many things but not performing the work, why is that? Is it because you need to keep the material storage because the price may increase? You must know the reason. Or you're overbuying it, or maybe there's a huge wastage. You keep on calling, site people keep on calling and say, oh, this is not enough. I ordered 5 meter cube, but not enough. Not enough. Every day, not enough. And then you need to find out what is going on. The work performed is only this much, but the money used is already this much, and you're still calling me and saying not enough, not enough, not enough. So it's either you being fee, or they are actually doing something hanky-panky on the side, or they're not treating the material, they're not treating the items on site properly. There are many cases of site people, of course, stealing things, of course, material comes, but nobody check on the quantity. And when it comes, you order 20 pallets, 60 pallets of bricks, it all comes, but then you end up, missing, like, there's so many come together at one time. Nobody check, and then 1-2 pallet is missing. Or maybe you open it up and inside there, half a pallet is rosak. You see, so these are very, very, it's like something so frequent. It can happen all the time. And it does need a very strong monitoring skills to be able to be controlling this. So when you start to control, it already means that you need to detect the problem first. The worst thing is you can't detect the problem. So you must have a good strategy for detecting problems. Meaning that the people on site, the material on site, the manpower on site, you must, as a project manager, create a way to warn you, to tell you that something is not right. Like, for example, material, how much the work performed is this much already. Supposed to be you have already ordered this many items. because it's all in your estimation sheets. So all the quantity, everything is in your estimation sheet. You've already done the procurement of 50%, but the work after 3 months that is in your schedule, suppose you finish and it's not finished yet, and your materials are not being used. Your material are overused already. You order 50%, you already order the next 50%, but it's all used up, but the work is not completed. So this is the time that you need to detect where is the problem. And you must detect it as earlier as possible. So you don't detect it at the end of third month when it's supposed to be work completed and it's not completed, then you realize that something is wrong. So the first month, you've already ordered 50% of the material. How much of the work has been done? 15%, 20%, 30%? Then you get, okay, so if it's 30%, then it's probably logical to stay about. See how we go next month. And then if next month started already and your site people are saying, oh, our things are almost finished, can you please order? You know that you've already ordered 50%. You still got another 50%. So yes, go ahead and order. Once you order it, then you see at the end of month 2, how much work has been done. If it's not done, if it's not there, then that is an alarm bell. Something is not right. So you need to find out on what is going on. Manpower, machineries, and all that. Also, there's another all these things of maintenance and people not coming to work, and the staff on site are not doing the job carefully. The methods are wrong, and all that. These are the things that you need to detect as earlier as possible. Otherwise, your cost will go haywire. That is very important. Okay, so estimating is the first thing. It's a pre-commitment stage. Get that right. That is the first part of your strategy. Second part is to get your procurement systems up correctly. And the third part is to get the post commitment stage, meaning that your monitoring and your controlling tools and everything, find ways among yourself to be able to detect, because some of your sites could be like few 100 km of road or drains. Some of your site can be very big, like 10 acres, 20 acres, and it's huge, you see. And some of you may have like 5 projects going on at the same time that you're looking after. So how do you keep all of this in place? It's the skills of a project manager. It is a strategy, it is a technique that you have to create before you get the project started so that you can detect the problem. You can have ways to monitor. Make sure that you pick the few important points to monitor. And then when you know that this important point is out of order, that means something is wrong. It's time to find out what is going on. Okay? So it's like you need to benchmark a few points here. So usually we'll go by material, we'll go by manpower, we'll go by machinery, and these are the typical benchmarks we will have. You see? So usually benchmark will be performance, how much work has been performed, and how much is the expenditure. That will be the clearest, simplest, most straightforward benchmarking, and then using EV technique to detect the problem at the end of every month if there's any cost overrun or schedule overrun, and find out why is there a problem. You see? Not every one of us can be on site, know every single thing at one time and every day. Okay? So a lot of this technique needs to be used in order for you to come back and ring that bell in your head and say, hey, something is not right here. Then you go and find out what's wrong. Okay, so you don't wait for the problem to find you and then you get a phone call, then you realize something is wrong. Every month, you should see the reporting, see the work that is being carried out, see the performance, see the schedule, see the costing. And then from these few aspects, you can put forth a rough idea of whether the project is in a healthy or unhealthy stage. Well, of course, some of the unhealthy stage is very obvious. Some project is after 3 months, the whole site is still kosong. That one is no need to look at all this figure. Also, we know something is wrong already. But what I mean is really day in, day out, when there is activities on site, these are the techniques that we can actually use in order to safeguard the work on site. Okay. All right, so these are the notes that I have, the 2 sets and the recording of today that we are having. I am recording. Yeah, okay. Any questions so far? We still have about 10 minutes. McCurry, you're here already, is it McCurry?
Yes, doctor. Yeah,
You've
since
already
3
put in
o'clock.
okay.
Yeah, already.
So you already put in the class attendance, huh?
Yes, already.
Okay. So I'll shut this off already, okay?
Okay.
All right. Any other questions that you have on or anything you want to share about cost management? Any issues or anything that you have faced in your work that you think that we can discuss here? You all are very quiet. Are you still here?
Yeah, still here.
Yeah. Okay, we are probably gone for a nap. I know it's very dry, the lecture. Like a bit boring kind of thing, you know. It's very practical. I mean, like a lot of times when we talk about dry things, it's basically you need to practice and see it, you know, and then you see, oh, you know, like I've, you know, like Dr. Ting talked about this before, and you know, it's like, oh, it's kind of related, you know, and we can use some of the techniques, and then it will become interesting. So when you're sitting here listening to all these theories, you know, and going through it, you know, you feel like, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm turning into you know. So, but I think it's more interesting for master's group because master's group, almost all of you are actually either working now or have many years experience. Only one or two of you are actually very fresh graduates. So I think a lot of things that I spoke about here, you probably hear it before, see it before, and kind of like makes sense to you. And correct me if something is wrong, huh? I'm more than happy to learn from you all as well. And yeah, I mean, like people like Irfan, you're in construction management. I think you deal a lot with this as well. And some of you are project engineer, and more like this, you're from the government, JKR. I'm pretty sure you see a lot of these patients and all that. That is well done, not well done, you know. And yeah, I mean, most of you are from consultant, like Roland and Johnson and all that. You're from consultant. Yeah, some of you are working for construction, like Alpha, you know, McCurry. So yeah, Shelley, developer. And then Rama, Rama, you're in construction also, huh? Where are you? What's Rama's name gone already? So yeah, I mean, like most of you are actually having working experience. I hope that you know this lecture actually helped me to enforce your technique, enforce your methods of doing things. You know, is different from undergraduate studies. Undergraduate studies are very like we need to give you the knowledge, you know, like squeeze the knowledge, every terms, define it, and all that. This here is more like I want to see you applying it, seeing how this is, you know, like actually take the knowledge. And you see, I don't really emphasize on talking about every single part of the knowledge, but it's more on the application on using the items and all that. So in exams, the questions will probably be like, you know, you need to create a project, do your estimation sheets, you know, work out on the estimation sheets, show me how you do your estimation sheets and converting that into the final grand total and applying the grand total into another part of the questions, you know, and then do your, you know, economic analysis or whatever. You know, these are kind of flow that, you know, we are looking at, like, and not so much on describe this, you know, what is this, you know, explain this, define this. We don't get that kind of thing anymore. I will never get you to say that, okay, define estimates, define what is detailed estimates, define what is describe what is parametric estimates. That kind of question will never be asked in your exam questions. All the exam question will be revolving around using it. How do you use it? In this situation, how do you calculate? In this situation, what would you do? You know, that kind of thing. So it's more like very, very application, very, you need to evaluate the situation and come up with a solution kind of thing. So not so much on theory. Okay? Just to get you a gauge on how we are going to draft the exam questions actually. Different, very different from undergraduate. Undergraduate, you get a lot of questions that is more on describing, more on like what is it, like how do you not so much on how do you do it, but more on the knowledge, like do they know this, like do they remember this, do they know this, like you all will be like, how do you apply this? How do you use this? How do you use EV? How do you use, like in this situation, how do you use EV? And if what does EV tells you, and what would you respond? How would you respond, with that, So that would be the kind of questions that you get a lot. So you need to add in some form of theory, but not so much, and explain it, and then put in a lot of your own, the using the techniques to get the solution and propose a solution sort of things. Yeah, that would be how we are going to be looking at your exams in that sense. Just to give you I like to sort of groom you as soon as possible for that part of the work, because I do not want to see anybody failing or anybody like having to resit. I was so happy last semester there's no reseating, so hopefully this semester there is no reseating as well, because having reseating is like, oh my gosh, I have to make sure that I have a weekend, have to make sure that the lecturers finish marking before the marks, meeting and all that. It's a very dreadful thing to have. And yeah, and some students like to ask me, Doctor, did I pass or whatever? I said, if you don't hear from me, it's always good news. If you start to hear from me, get ready for reseating, then you know something is wrong. Okay. All right, so I think that's it for today. We have already spent
for the exam kan mostly is apa punya calculation kah, or like need to read the theory?
Apply. It's more of an application. There will be some calculation. It's a spread. There will be some calculation. There will be some explanation, but not a direct explanation. Not a direct like, what is this? Explain this, describe this sort of things. No.
See. Also meaning we have to remember the theory and also the calculation lah. Because you have so many wording, so many
Because
text.
you see, take-home exam, your wordings and all that, you can always read. It's always there available already. You see, so there is no challenge for you to write like 2 pages of theory. You can always copy and paste from somewhere, and do a bit of amendments. That is only going to take you 15 minutes. Correct or not? So most of the questions will be revolving around, like let's say let me try to recall like let's say scope management. I will not get you to write like like what is scope statement, what should be in scope statement, that sort of things. It's like that sort of things you can always look at my notes and then type it in, and then it's done already. So it's more like, okay, the question will be that in a way that it's like looking at the scope of work, for a particular project. Okay, you have to evaluate the whole process of coming up with the scope of work. So you need to go back to every one of the processes, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then you need to comment on it, not only the theory you can always get it from the notes, because it's a take-home exam. I don't stop you from looking into your notes, you see. So you don't have to memorize anything, Roland, okay? But you need to know where everything is. That is very important. If last minute you sit there, you don't know where my notes are, then that is you're having a big problem, you see. And then you better go and flip like, oh yeah, where is it? I'm going to read out and try to understand. That one is really a big issue. You should already understand all the theory is already there, but when it comes to the questions, you need to apply. Okay? You need to apply. Like I said, the question of, let's say, costing, it will not be, or what is an estimate? Can you explain parametric estimates? No, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be, okay, with this project, or you can select a project of your own, create a cost estimation sheet. So meaning that you need to take the work breakdown, you need to have a project, sit there and write a work breakdown, and then from the work breakdown, you need to divide into the resources. So from the resources, you explain how you do the resources, and then from there, from the rate, you calculate and show me how you calculate the whole costing of the project. That will be the actual, that will be the kind of questions that you will get. Application.
Okay, Doctor. Meaning the take-home test, meaning there's not like last semester punya test lah kan? Is
last semester you have all 3 online face-to-face,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Nah?
face to face, betul.
Yeah, online face-to-face are always very good for very how do you say very straightforward kind of calculation kind of question. So you see, last semester your 3 subjects RC, soil, and transport. They are more on the calculation, correct? Not
Betul.
Roland.
Yes, doctor, correct.
Yeah, so that's why the lecturers will choose like online face-to-face.
Oh, so this one is like we don't need to on our camera lah kan? We do our work by the time we need to submit the same day lah. Similar like assigning assignment juga kan?
Correct.
But assignment is longer.
A little bit like assignment, okay? But you need to do it over 4 hours, 5 hours, or 6 hours, depending on what the lecturer specifies.
See, okay, doctor. Understood.
The take-home exam is an open book exam, meaning that you can take your notes and read and all that. You can, you can go online and search for information and all that. You can take books and read. It's fine. You will not be penalized for that. There's no camera on. Okay. So you will start to see that the question is not as straightforward. It's just copying something from the note.
Okay, doctor. Understood.
Like, let's say I kind of like remember previously, I mean, we have a project management class for engineering management now. I think Dr. Lee's question was more on like there was a scenario of manpower, distribution and all that. And then after that, you need to produce the network diagram and then calculate the resource. Do the resources calculation. And then after that, from there, do the schedule and do the network kind of thing. So it's like a whole calculation, but also involving it's not like I said, it's not like say, okay, draw a network diagram. Like you explain how to draw a network diagram. You need to do it, you see. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's more application kind of question, not so much of theory. Theory is only the basis that you have in a way.
Okay, doctor. We try to. Okay.
Digest it. It's okay. I think that I'm starting you on the exams work as early as I can. So it's okay. Some of you are thinking like, what on earth is he talking about? It's fine because slowly, we're trying to get you to feel it. Like today I talk about cost management. So I will, sort of like explain to you what kind of questions you'll be expecting to see, you see? And that will kind of like help you to imagine what sort of questions that you get. You have exam questions at the end of the semester also, where Dr. Lee will come back and explain to you which area that you need to focus on and what kind of questions that you roughly be getting. Not the question itself, but as some sort of idea of what sort of questions that you'll be getting in a way,
Okay.
We're trying to be a bit confused now, but I will try to explain as we go along now.
Okay, doctor.
Let's say let me give you an example on something in cost management. Some people will say that kind of questions are very tricky. It's not straightforward.
Okay.
I'm trying to on my things.
Okay, Doctor Kat. Thank you for your some tips. At least because when we see the not so many wording.
Yeah, like I say, take home, you don't have to memorize everything, but you need to know where everything is. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
Like for example, let's say a costing question, okay? So the question will probably get you to select, you have to pick a project of your choice. And the project will have at least 6 or 7 major activities or 5 to 6 major activities. So from there, you need to break down your cost. We need you to break down the cost of your project and then do the calculation basically to show the resources and how the resources contribute to the final capital cost of the project. So you can see, if this kind of question straightforward, it is not right. It involves many components, but it doesn't ask you to write like, oh, the theory is like this, like this, you see? More about you understand the theory, you know the theory, and then from there, you know where the theories are, and then from there, you can do it, you see? You can apply that, you can pick a project, you apply that, you will design the sheets and all that straight away, and then you see, you need to tell me, okay, resources is this, and then my resources is like this, and then after that, these are my rate. I need to use the time within the duration and calculate that with the rate, and then from the rate I add up, and all that, so it's like you need to show the whole flow of the calculation. Not only the calculation, you need to explain it as you go along. So it's not so straightforward. A straightforward question will be for this kind of exam will be explain how estimate is being carried out. It will be very straightforward. Okay.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you, doctor.
No problem. Any other questions? So let's say scope management. The questions will probably be revolving around asking you to develop the whole process and procedures of coming up with the scope of your project. So it's like everybody will have a different answer because your project is different. If you are doing a road project, if you're doing a structure project, if you're doing a development project, the process of coming up with your scope, the theory are all there in the notes, okay? But the whole process, some of it you use, some of it you don't use. Because depending on the nature of your project, the processes and procedures to develop the scope of work, even though the framework is roughly there, but the explanation you put in will be dependent on your project. Your environment studies, you show your environment studies will be very different from the McQuarrie's one or from Shelley's one or from Shiking one or from Richard one, you see. So even though it's a take-home exam, you really don't have so much time to call one another up and try to ask how this is done, you see. So it's like there's a lot of things to do within that 4 or 5 hours. And a lot of them will be very application-based kind of questions. If we give you a very theory questions, it will always be like 3 marks, 5 marks. That one is to give you some marks on. But majority of the marks will be in that, develop your own thing, evaluate something, apply something, and then get your do the actual costing, and all that. So that one will be more of a practical kind of more of a practical kind of exams. Same goes, I saw the question for wastewater, also very, very, very case studies based, like pretty much of a situation case studies based kind of exam questions, not so much on the theory one. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we know about that every sessions. When I come back with you, we can actually explain that more, huh? Anything else
Okay,
for
doctor.
anybody? If not, then we'll call it a day. It's already 5:30.
Yes.
I think every one of you must be hungry, or some of you have your children waiting for you to go to the park or something, So yeah, we better call it a day off.
Okay, doctor.
Right. So
Thank
anyone,
you, Doctor.
thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. If you
Yeah,
want to
bye-bye.
leave, you can leave. Some of you who wants to stay back for anything, you can just talk to me. I will still be online here for a little while, okay? Until everybody's leave.